Chains and thorns frame a grim declaration that happiness does not exist in this world.
A brown-haired girl in rags wonders how long she has been imprisoned as doors open.
Villagers point and shout as the brown-haired girl is led out in a wooden stockade. An apple is thrown at the brown-haired girl as she is publicly shamed for her crimes. Someone mockingly wishes her a happy marriage as a rotten apple rolls past her bare feet. Villagers surround the brown-haired girl, claiming her new home is perfect for a criminal.
Fluid drips onto her as the brown-haired girl confirms she is being married off.
A villager throws another object as she accepts that a criminal cannot object to marriage. The crowd laughs at the brown-haired girl while food continues to be pelted at her.
A guard watches as the brown-haired girl is led toward a carriage for her journey.
The brown-haired girl clenches her stockade, feeling relief to finally be leaving the kingdom. A villager sneers while expressing his hope that the Beast King treats her well.
The brown-haired girl realizes her destination is the land of human-hunting beastkin as monsters howl.
History shows a conflict between the kingdom of Ford and the wolf-headed beastkin of the forest.
The description highlights that beastkin possess immense size along with incredibly sharp claws and fangs.
Scattered documents recount a decades-long Cold War that only recently gave way to renewed diplomacy. Warning signs and bloody imagery illustrate the pervasive human fear of being eaten by beastkin.
A decree reveals the Beast King's sudden demand for a bride from the kingdom of Ford.
Better dressed but looking miserable, the brown-haired girl reveals she was the chosen wife.
She questions why a powerful Beast King would specifically want to marry a human criminal.
The villagers continue to leer and laugh as they prepare to send the girl away.
The citizens of Ford celebrate being rid of a nuisance by selling her to wolves. Seated inside the carriage, the brown-haired girl notes she is dressed for a funeral.
She weeps while clutching a box, viewing herself as a sacrifice rather than a bride.
A terrifying vision of being grabbed by monsters haunts the brown-haired girl's inner thoughts. The carriage wheel continues to rattle across the terrain as she travels deeper into the forest.
The brown-haired girl yelps in pain as the carriage jolts, causing her to hit her head.
The carriage stops and a guard roughly pulls her out as she asks if they stopped.
The guard unlocks the stockade and heartlessly tells her she must walk the rest alone. She pleads for the guard to wait as the carriage speeds away, abandoning her. Left alone in the dark forest, the brown-haired girl falls to her knees in despair.
She clenches the ground and decides to use this abandonment as an opportunity to escape. The brown-haired girl looks around the dark trees with growing anxiety as she tries to flee. She cautiously makes her way down a dimly lit path through the thick forest brush. A sudden sound in the woods causes the brown-haired girl to gasp and freeze. She flinches at another noise, her eyes widening as she realizes she is not alone.
A massive wild boar with glowing eyes emerges from the shadows and snorts at her. The monstrous beast charges toward her with its head down, intending to strike the girl. She falls back in terror, screaming no as she wonders if her life ends here.
A final desperate thought crosses her mind as she prepares to die in the forest. A sudden impact occurs as the beast is struck down, letting out a pained squeal.
Blood from the defeated monster drips onto the forest floor in the aftermath of the struggle. A hooded wolf beastkin stands over the scene, his breath visible in the cold air. The brown-haired girl stares up in absolute shock at the mysterious figure who saved her. Fresh blood drips from the beastkin's clawed hands as he looms over the fallen tray.
Trembling with fear, the brown-haired girl tries to speak to the predator standing before her. The hooded wolf beastkin licks blood from his hand while looking down at the girl. She panics internally as she realizes the person who rescued her is a feared beastkin. The hooded wolf beastkin wipes his mouth and acknowledges the presence of the human girl.
He leers at her with a single eye, his gaze intense as he evaluates her.
A pink-furred wolf maid with menacing blue eyes declares her intent to eventually eat the girl. The girl's green eye widens in absolute shock as she overhears the maid's terrifying proclamation. Crouched in the hallway, the girl panics while realizing her deepest fears about the beastkin were true. Shaking with terror, she huddles on the floor, convinced that her fate is finally sealed. A dark vision of a clawed hand grasping a skull reinforces her belief that beastkin consume humans. She gulps nervously, struggling to reconcile the king's previous reassurances with the maid's cruel words. Hiding behind a wall, she listens as a maid warns another to keep their predatory talk quiet. A gray-furred maid expresses her disappointment and loss of admiration for the king's choice of wife. Heart-pounding, the girl wonders why Alfred would bring a human into such a dangerous environment. Haunted by memories of past mistreatment, she laments that she remains a burden in her new home. While wringing a cloth, a maid mentions a human proverb regarding the necessity of working for food. The girl ponders the meaning of the maid's words, her eyes reflecting a mix of fear and curiosity. Overhearing the maids wishing she would do something useful, the girl realizes she must find a purpose. She looks downward, considering the idea of finding work to prove her value within the castle. The maid licks her teeth, suggesting the human might become emergency food if she remains lazy and useless.
Cruel laughter echoes through the hall as the maids walk away, leaving the girl alone and frightened.
Determined to change her situation, she resolves to find a job to ensure her own survival. Standing in her white nightgown, the girl prepares herself to face the daunting tasks ahead of her. She observes Hannah cleaning with a duster, looking for an opportunity to offer her own assistance. A spark of hope appears in her emerald eyes as she devises a plan to help. Approaching Hannah, she timidly asks if she can assist with the chores, surprising the light-furred maid. Hannah looks shocked and insists that allowing the lady of the house to do chores is forbidden. Ignoring her plea to help, Hannah gently guides the girl to a seat and tells her to rest. Though she understands Hannah's protective nature, the girl remains determined to find a way to work. She attempts to help a gray maid with sweeping, but is curtly told to leave the professional work. Offering to assist a dark-furred maid with flowers, she is once again rejected by a busy servant. Another maid sharply commands her to return to her room, leaving the girl feeling unwanted and useless.
Overcome by a sense of failure, the girl hangs her head in a state of deep depression.
Carrying a candelabra through the dark night, she reflects on being a nuisance to the castle staff.
She realizes that seeking help from Hannah or the other maids is no longer a viable option.
The girl stands before the king's massive blue doors, contemplating a final, desperate plea for guidance. Her heart races as she fears that even Alfred might turn her away and reject her presence.
She musters her courage and knocks on the heavy door, receiving a calm invitation to enter. Entering the room, she finds Alfred sitting comfortably on a sofa while reading a large red book. Alfred looks up from his reading and notes that it is quite late for her to be awake. Clutching her nightgown, she hesitates to speak while standing before the large, imposing figure of the king.
With nowhere else to turn, she decides she must find a way to discuss her current predicament.
Alfred's wolf ears twitch as he senses her distress and pays close attention to her nervous arrival. He stands up and invites her inside, noting the cold temperature of the hallway outside his room.
Alfred hands her a warm cup of tea and gently warns her that the drink is very hot.
She blows on the steaming tea, feeling comforted by the warmth spreading through her cold, trembling hands.
A soft, patient smile crosses the Beast King's face as he watches her settle into the room.
Alfred shifts his weight on the sofa, making room for her to sit comfortably by his side. As he sits down next to her, the sudden proximity startles the girl, causing her to jump slightly. Seeing her reaction, Alfred offers a light-hearted apology for surprising her with his large physical presence. He places a reassuring hand on her shoulder and asks if she is feeling all right this evening. Flustered and blushing, the girl quickly scoots away while insisting that she is perfectly fine. Alfred looks down at his own teacup, his expression becoming more serious as he senses her hesitation.
He looks directly at her and asks if there is something specific she wishes to tell him.
Setting her cup down on the table, the girl resolves to speak up about her desire for work. Prostrating herself, the brown-haired girl begs Alfred to grant her some form of employment. Alfred stares at her with a confused expression, questioning the meaning behind her request. Amelia considers her secret, realizing she cannot reveal the cruel comments she overheard the maids making. Amelia describes her past labor in prison, and Alfred reacts with surprise at her sudden confession. Alfred adopts an intense expression while asking if she was treated like a common slave. Amelia flinches and stammers as she struggles to respond to the king's stern and focused questioning. Alfred reaches his large, dark hand toward her while she looks away with a troubled expression. Embracing her, Alfred insists her only duty is to remain by his side as his wife. Blushing intensely, the girl questions the implications of her specific role as the king's official wife. Amelia imagines a future where her royal duty involves bearing children and providing the king descendants. Panicking at the thought of motherhood, Amelia pushes Alfred away and screams that she cannot do it. A close-up of her vibrant green eye captures her sudden gasp and overwhelming sense of shock. Amelia stammeringly apologizes to Alfred for her sudden frantic outburst and physical rejection of his touch. Alfred gently takes her hand, using his large palm to cover her much smaller, trembling fingers. Offering a small, patient smile, Alfred tells her not to worry and insists that he's fine. Tears well in her eyes as the girl wonders why the king continues being so kind. Alfred's wolf ear twitches as he prepares to offer an alternative solution to her work request. Alfred proposes a romantic job, but a flustered Amelia retreats while declaring that isn't real work. Alfred holds her hands, calling her desire a unique job before asking why she wants work. Fearing for the maid's safety, Amelia hesitates and wonders how to explain her sudden motivation. Alfred tilts her head up and asks if she is keeping a secret from him tonight. The Beast King peers at her, repeating his question about whether she has something to hide. Under the king's intense scrutiny, Amelia realizes she must find something to tell him very quickly. Amelia apologizes to the king while struggling to formulate a believable excuse for her sudden behavior.
Forcing a nervous smile, she claims her lack of productivity since arriving makes her feel guilty. Alfred remains silent, staring at her with a neutral expression as he processes her flimsy explanation. Averting her gaze, she notes that Alfred has been working hard while she does absolutely nothing. Amelia hangs her head in shame, feeling terrible for lying to the king about her motivations. Alfred looks down thoughtfully, the soft light illuminating his ornate black and gold royal garments. While sitting on the bed together, Amelia smiles warmly and reflects on the king's genuine kindness. Amelia dozes off while wondering about her future job, then wakes up to a sudden rustle. Alfred looms over her in the dimly lit room, his presence casting a large, dark shadow. Her heart hammers as the king gazes down at her, wondering if something is about to happen. Alfred's hand reaches toward her chest while she lies there, blushing and trembling with nervous anticipation. Squeezing her eyes shut, Amelia panics and assumes the king is moving in for an embrace. Peeking one eye open, she realizes Alfred was merely reaching out to extinguish the flickering candles. Alfred asks what's wrong as Amelia flinches, her face still flushed with embarrassment and confusion. The king looks away awkwardly, mentioning that he assumed she had already fallen fast asleep. Alfred asks about the candles, but a flustered Amelia rolls over and bids him a quick goodnight. Alfred stares at the unlit candles and sighs, feeling the weight of the awkward, silent atmosphere. Both lie in bed facing opposite directions, blushing while questioning the strange nature of their feelings. Tucked under the covers, Amelia stares into the darkness, realizing she cannot fall asleep at all. The morning sun shines on a breakfast table filled with fresh fruit and elegant china settings. Amelia sits at the table, admitting her total lack of sleep as a maid serves breakfast. Reaching for the water pitcher, Amelia's hand accidentally brushes against Alfred's large, dark-furred hand. They both recoil in shock, stammering apologies as the accidental contact leaves them both feeling flustered. Alfred clears his throat awkwardly and tries to move past the embarrassing moment at the table. Amelia perks up with a surprised look as she senses a change in the king's mood. Alfred addresses her as Amelia Lauren and announces he has finally found a job for her. Amelia's eyes widen as her heart races, touched that the king has finally used her name. Alfred stands and commands the girl to follow him to a new location. Walking through stone arches, the girl notes that she has never visited this area. Alfred stops at the end of the hallway, his back turned to his wife. Looking around nervously, the brown-haired girl asks the king where he has taken her. Her eyes widen in wonder at the sight of beautiful flowers and fluttering butterflies. Stepping outside, she exclaims that the hidden garden is the most beautiful place imaginable. Amelia admits she had no idea such a lovely place existed within the castle. Approaching a servant, Alfred politely asks for pardon as they walk through the roses. Surprised by their arrival, a wolf maid with a long braid greets the king. Bowing low, the maid flatteringly tells Alfred that he looks as splendid as he always does. Alfred thanks her while Amelia stares, wondering why the maid looks so strangely familiar. Recalling the maid's threat to eat her, Amelia gasps. Alfred asks if something is wrong. Jolting in fear, she insists nothing is wrong while privately resolving to hide her discovery. A heavy realization fills her mind as she decides she cannot let Alfred find out. Alfred holds her hand firmly as they continue their walk through the bright morning sun. The wolf maid narrows her eyes, watching the human girl with a look of suspicion. Gnashing her teeth, the maid inwardly curses the human and rejects her as her queen. Entering a glass building, the confused girl asks for the name of the new location. Alfred gestures to the roses, stating he wants her to raise all the flowers here. Alfred confirms that managing the greenhouse will be her official job as the king's wife. A warm memory of watering colorful tulips with a kind woman surfaces in her mind. Tears well in her emerald eyes as she reflects on her lack of happy memories. Sensing her sudden sadness, Alfred leans in and asks if she dislikes the job offer. Amelia eagerly insists she loves the idea and promises to learn everything about flower care. Alfred smiles warmly, praising her spirit and expressing his desire to see many vibrant flowers. A servant interrupts to remind Alfred of his schedule. The king realizes he almost forgot. Alfred waves goodbye, telling Hannah to take care of the rest of the girls' training. Bowing deeply, the grateful girl thanks the king for giving her a sense of purpose. Hannah whispers that every previous queen has traditionally taken care of this specific greenhouse. A vision of the king's late mother tending to red roses appears in the light. Clenching her fists, Amelia resolves to take excellent care of the royal greenhouse heritage. Amelia accidentally spills a heavy bag of soil. Hannah asks if she is feeling all right. Feeling gloomy, the girl laments that she only seems to get in Hannah's way. She spots a tray of small green seedlings appearing in the corner of the room. Hannah offers a tray of sprouts, asking the girl if she can plant them instead. Amelia assumes the maid is only giving her simple tasks to spare her feelings. Shaking her head, she resolves to be happy and try her best at the task. A shadowy figure watches from outside the glass walls of the quiet castle greenhouse.
Wiping sweat from her brow, she imagines the greenhouse looking prettier with more flowers.
The girl notices a massive, unstable stack of old buckets and barrels in the corner.
Fearing Hannah might get hurt, she approaches the high stack to try and secure it.
The stack begins to tumble. The girl turns around with a look of pure shock.
She stares upward in horror as the heavy wooden barrels fall directly toward her.
Screaming in terror, the girl drops to the floor and covers her head in fear.
The barrels crash loudly onto the stone floor as the girl flinches and gasps. A barrel rolls past her hands. She looks up in confusion, whispering a quiet wait. Alfred appears suddenly, shielding the girl's body with his own as the dust settles.
Alfred asks if she is all right. Hannah rushes toward them, shouting in sudden alarm.
Glancing back at the worried maid, Alfred calmly states that they are both fine.
Alfred remains on the floor with his wife, explaining the barrels simply fell over.
Hannah apologizes for her failure to protect the girl while Alfred checks for injuries.
The girl insists she is fine because the king successfully shielded her from Mime.
Alfred tenderly caresses the girl's face while her heart races at his sudden closeness.
A close-up of the girl's wide emerald eye captures her sudden gasp of alarm.
The girl notices blood on Alfred's hand and urgently points out the king's injury.
Alfred dismisses the scratch as minor and begins to lick the wound clean himself.
Horrified by his animalistic response, the girl shouts that his behavior is not okay.
Alfred freezes in shock while the girl looks at him with a stern, indignant expression.
The girl fretfully asks what would happen to them if the king were seriously injured. Blushing deeply, Alfred remains speechless as the girl gently touches his cheek with concern. Hannah giggles and announces she will fetch a first aid kit for the king's hand. Panicked by the awkward atmosphere, the girl rushes after the maid to offer her assistance.
Alfred rubs his head and sighs, feeling overwhelmed by the complexity of their evolving relationship.
Alfred's sharp gaze shifts toward the hidden culprit as the pink-furred maid flinches in fear. A dark threat looms as the king warns of consequences for wishing harm upon his wife. Alfred glares intensely at the maid as she prostrates herself and begs for his mercy.
The king sternly commands the whimpering maid to remain silent as he looms over her. Alfred issues a final warning that he will not tolerate another attempt on his wife's life. The king walks away from the cowering servant, leaving her trembling in his powerful wake. Alfred ponders if the girl's request for work was motivated by the staff's hostility. Time passes as the girl works diligently in the greenhouse without any further dangerous incidents. The greenhouse erupts into a vibrant display of flowers as the girl and Hannah celebrate. Amelia credits Hannah for the success, while the maid insists it was the lady's hard work. Hannah mentions the king's inevitable delight, but Amelia looks away with a troubled expression. Amelia gazes sadly at the specific rose bushes that have yet to bloom in the greenhouse.
A memory reveals Alfred explaining that these specific roses represent the royal family's ancient crest.
Resolved to succeed, Amelia stands up and calls out for Hannah to assist her further. During a meal, Amelia abruptly leaves the table to return to her duties with the flowers.
Alfred wakes up alone in bed, wondering about Amelia's whereabouts as she continues her work.
Alfred sits contemplatively, noting that Amelia has been acting strangely distant and dedicated to work. Hearing a knock, the king grants entrance and watches the door as it begins to open. Hannah enters the room to deliver an important update regarding the girl's recent activities. Amelia's tired eyes reflect her exhaustion as she struggles to stay awake during the night. She reflects on her lack of botanical knowledge and her insecurity regarding her royal status. Amelia spends the night studying flower care and taking meticulous notes from an old book. Determined to protect the king's legacy, she resolves to keep his beloved roses from withering. Standing among the roses at night, Amelia cries out in frustration as her efforts fail. A large hand gently pats her head as she huddled on the stone greenhouse floor.
Alfred stands behind his wife, his presence offering a silent comfort in the quiet garden.
Amelia immediately falls to her knees and stammers an apology for her perceived failures. Crying, she mentions the roses he entrusted to her, while Alfred tells her to look up. Amelia raises her tear-streaked face, looking at the king with an expression of pure heartbreak. Alfred effortlessly lifts his wife into his arms against a backdrop of soft, shimmering light. A single tear falls from her eye as she wonders about the king's sudden actions. Alfred carries a bewildered Amelia out of the greenhouse, his face set with a firm purpose. The king places the startled girl onto the back of a large white horse outside. The castle staff watches in confusion as the king prepares for an unplanned departure.
Alfred orders the servants to redirect visitors as he prepares to ride off with his wife. A miniature version of the girl questions the reality of her sudden and romantic situation.
The king and his wife gallop away into the distance, leaving the castle behind them. A white horse stands alone in a misty, sun-dappled forest as the journey begins. Amelia asks the king about the nature of the beautiful forest they are currently exploring.
They arrive at a riverside garden, the ancestral home of the royal family's sacred roses.
Delighted by the vibrant flowers, she kneels down to admire the stunning and colorful blooms. Alfred mentions that a significant legend exists regarding the historical origin of these specific roses.
He describes how a dying ancestor was saved by a goddess offering roses and spring water.
The ancestor added the rose to the crest as a permanent show of deep gratitude.
Touching the shimmering spring, she realizes the water holds the secret to granting new life.
A sudden flash of light illuminates her eyes as she reaches a startling and hopeful conclusion. Grabbing Alfred's hand, she suggests using this magical spring water to save the castle's roses. The king reacts with surprise and interest as he processes her sudden and clever suggestion. Standing together in a field of flowers, they share a quiet moment while holding hands.
Both turn away with blushing cheeks as their hearts race from the sudden physical contact. Alfred softly calls her name while giving her hand a gentle squeeze among the roses.
Flustered, she worries that her impulsive action of grabbing his hand was potentially quite rude.
Alfred rests his chin on his hand, looking thoughtful as he considers their evolving relationship.
Looking downward, the girl contemplates her feelings while surrounded by a field of white flowers.
Hannah watches them from a distance, wearing a knowing and mischievous smile on her face. The maid suggests a restorative cup of tea, noting the lady must be quite exhausted.
Insisting she is fine, the girl eagerly offers to help Hannah with the picnic preparations.
She dashes away, leaving Alfred wondering if he accidentally scared her off with his presence.
Alfred touches his chin in confusion, pondering why she fled from him so very quickly.
Helping the maid prepare for tea, she assists Hannah in spreading out a pink cloth. A decorative brown suitcase is opened, revealing the elegant treasures packed inside for their meal.
Her eyes sparkle with delight as she sees the fancy items tucked inside the basket.
The spread includes ornate teacups, heart-shaped biscuits, and a cupcake decorated with sugar rose petals. Picking up a white teapot, she marvels at its large size while preparing the drink. Several glass bottles filled with clear, shimmering spring water are set down on the grass. Smiling warmly against a floral background, she hugs the teapot while feeling a sense of peace.
Returning to the king's side, they share a lingering look as the atmosphere becomes calm. Alfred suggests returning home while the water is fresh, and she agrees with the idea.
A sudden sound of shattering porcelain echoes as a teacup falls and breaks on the ground.
Startled by the noise, Alfred and his wife turn around to see what has happened. Masked wolfmen have kidnapped Hannah, demanding valuables while holding a sharp knife to her throat. Horrified by the danger her friend is in, the girl screams Hannah's name in shock. Alfred stands protectively in front of his wife as more growling enemies emerge from shadows. The Beast King's expression darkens with rage as he gnashes his teeth and lets out growls. Stepping forward, Alfred demands to know if they realize they are trespassing on royal grounds. The thief threatens Hannah, but Alfred commands silence with a powerful roar that vibrates the air. Commanding his guards to arrest the criminals, the king lunges forward to protect his household. Hannah is shoved aside while the girl rushes to her, unaware a thief is lunging behind. Alfred strikes the attacker with a heavy blow, stopping the threat before it reaches his life. Looming over the thief, Alfred warns that harming Amelia will result in a slow, painful death. The bandits are tied up as the carriage races back to the castle at sunset. Once they return, Alfred asks if she is tired, but she says she is fine. She worries that the king is exhausted after the day's stressful and very dangerous events. Dismissing her concerns, Alfred asks if she believes the special roses will truly be okay. She carefully pours the revitalizing spring water onto the withered rose bushes, hoping for a miracle. With her heart racing in anticipation, she watches the soil to see if anything happens. Alfred watches the process with a serious, focused gaze, waiting for the ancient magic to return. The royal rosebuds remain closed, glistening with delicate droplets of magical spring water. Amelia tells Alfred she doubts the roses will bloom immediately as she holds the teapot. Gently caressing the petals, Amelia apologizes for rushing the flowers and wishes them health. Amelia promises to monitor the flowers and notes they have extra spring water if needed. Alfred looks at his wife and agrees that her plan to monitor them is correct. Alfred's purple eye widens in surprise as he notices a sudden change in the roses. Alfred calls out for Amelia to look at the miraculous transformation occurring before them both. Amelia gasps in shock and asks what is happening as the flowers begin to stir. The legendary bicolored rose suddenly bursts into full bloom, radiating a magical, shimmering light. Amelia's eyes sparkle with pure joy and amazement as she exclaims at the beautiful sight. Embraced by floral sparkles, Amelia excitedly tells the king that his plan worked perfectly tonight. Touching the vibrant petals, Amelia thanks the flower for blooming and admires its immense beauty. Alfred watches his wife's happiness and reflects on a secret he has yet to share. Ancient text reveals these are the queen's roses, and blooming them proves one's royal qualification. Alfred reaches out with his gloved hand toward Amelia, intending to share a tender moment. Amelia makes a confused sound as she feels the king's hand gently touching her face. Looking at her with soft eyes, Alfred blushes slightly while the atmosphere becomes deeply romantic.
While Alfred lifts her chin, Amelia stares into his eyes, her heart swelling with emotion.
Amelia addresses the king with a soft, trembling voice as the sun sets behind them.
Startled by the intimacy, Amelia's hands slip and she accidentally drops the heavy porcelain teapot.
With lightning reflexes, Alfred reaches out and catches the falling teapot before it hits ground.
Alfred holds the teapot while a flustered Amelia stammers an apology for her sudden clumsiness.
Amelia shyly glances at the king, her face burning with embarrassment after the near accident.
Clinging to the teapot, Amelia realizes her heart is racing uncontrollably from his intense proximity. Alfred clears his throat and credits Amelia's idea for the success of the rose revival.
Blushing deeply, Amelia shyly insists that her contribution to the roses was actually quite insignificant.
The king and queen walk together peacefully through the garden, surrounded by flourishing, colorful blooms. While in the library, Amelia reacts with horror upon learning that Hannah has been injured.
Alfred explains Hannah's injury prevents her return, making Amelia realize the maid suffered that day.
Amelia reflects on Hannah's kindness and resolves to do something special to help her friend. Determined to help, Amelia firmly grips her book as she prepares to depart the castle. Amelia approaches the king and calls out his title, seeking his permission for her plan. Peeking from the carriage curtains, a hooded Amelia looks out as they travel toward town. Amelia notes the size of the city and realizes they haven't reached their destination yet. Pleading with the king, Amelia insists she really wants to go and help the maid. Twirling in her new pink disguise, Amelia asks the king about the purpose of her outfit. Alfred explains the disguise is a safety precaution before announcing their arrival in the city.
Peeking out with curiosity, Amelia acknowledges the king's announcement that they have finally arrived.
Alfred steps out of the black carriage, his presence commanding attention in the busy city street. Amelia notices something through the carriage door, her green eye reflecting her sudden, sharp alertness. Clutching her flowers, Amelia walks through the crowded city while her heart beats with nervous excitement.
Standing among blue flowers, Alfred offers his hand to guide his wife through the city.
Amelia gasps as she looks at the king's outstretched hand, her eyes wide with surprise. Placing her hand in his, Amelia accepts Alfred's lead as they continue their journey together. Hannah rests in a large bed, her leg heavily bandaged as she smiles with relief. Amelia expresses relief at Hannah's recovery, while the maid admits her inability to walk is frustrating. Amelia panics and tells Hannah to lie down when the maid mentions trying to use her lead. Alfred tells Hannah to rest and notes that Amelia wants her to rely on them more. Amelia presents a bouquet and herbal medicine she made, eager to help her dear friend heal. Hannah thanks the lady with tears of gratitude, but a sudden loud sound startles them. Alfred asks for confirmation after Hannah mentions the testing of fireworks for today's annual festival. Hannah realizes something and suggests the king and his lady should attend the festival together. A bustling festival fills the city with banners, colorful balloons, and a lively, noisy crowd. Alfred and a hooded Amelia walk through the crowded streets while the city's clamor surrounds them. A wolfman laughs nearby as Amelia flinches, feeling overwhelmed by the loud and crowded atmosphere. Feeling anxious, Amelia tugs on Alfred's sleeve while her heart hammers with sudden, sharp fear. Alfred reaches back and firmly grabs Amelia's hand, securing her smaller hand in his own. Amidst a soft glow, Alfred reassures her of his presence to help calm her sudden nerves. Alfred gazes at her while squeezing her hand, and a surprised Amelia looks back at him. Relieved by his touch, Amelia breathes a sigh of relief and offers a sweet, happy smile. Alfred offers a rare, gentle smile as he continues to guide her through the festive street. A merchant invites the couple to take a look at his wares as they pass by. Alfred shows Amelia various items at a jewelry stall while she looks on with nervous curiosity. Amelia looks at a star-shaped fruit in wonder while Alfred points at the interesting market find. Alfred speaks with a vendor while Amelia watches the interaction from behind him with curious eyes. Clutching a small package, Amelia thanks the king for his kindness with a bright, happy expression.
Amelia makes a soft sound of surprise as her face becomes noticeably red with sudden embarrassment.
In a moment of intense emotional connection, Amelia softly calls out the king's name, Sir Alfred. Holding her gift, Amelia gazes upward and blushes deeply amidst a flurry of pink flower petals. Alfred mentions that he heard the fireworks are scheduled to start soon in the city square. Walking toward the castle tower, Alfred suggests they go see the fireworks displayed together in the square. Amelia reflects on her perfect day, from helping Hannah to finally calling the king by name. Amelia holds a small, whimpering wolf child and wonders what she should do to help him. Noticing a disturbance, Amelia turns around while the crying child draws the attention of the crowd. Alfred calls out Amelia's name as she steps away into the thick crowd to offer assistance. Separated from Alfred, Amelia panics and considers whether she should stay where she currently is. Amelia decides to find the child's parents while the boy points toward a possible direction ahead. A wolfwoman bows and thanks Amelia profusely for finding and returning her lost young son. The woman offers a repayment, but Amelia shyly insists she is simply glad they were reunited. A massive wolfman appears and leers at Amelia, causing her to stiffen in sudden, sharp fear. The mother happily explains to her husband that the hooded girl helped their lost little boy.
Sensing a dangerous presence, Amelia urgently resolves to leave the alleyway and get away immediately.
The large man blocks her path, asking why she is in such a sudden, suspicious rush.
Amelia's eye captures her horror as her heart hammers against her chest in a panic.
The man sniffs the air and remarks that something about her scent is suspiciously unusual. Suddenly, the man grabs Amelia's shoulder, making her gasp and struggle in his powerful, frightening grip. Amelia lets out a sharp cry as the situation takes a sudden and terrifyingly dangerous turn.
Searching through the crowd, a frantic Alfred shouts Amelia's name while breathing heavily in his panic.
Alfred curses under his breath while the noisy chatter of the festival-goers surrounds him completely.
Alfred's ear perks up at the mention of a human being in the city during the festival.
Two wolves discuss a rumor that a human is currently hidden somewhere in their city today. Alfred realizes he must find Amelia immediately and get her out of the city before discovery. The man grips Amelia tightly, calling her suspicious as she fears her identity will be revealed.
A small wolf child watches the tense scene and begins to let out a quiet whimper.
The child breaks into loud wailing, crying out in distress as the adults around him argue. The mother scolds the man for making the boy cry while the man stammers an excuse. The man points in shock toward the empty spot where Amelia stood before her sudden disappearance.
Running for her life, Amelia huffs for breath while pink flower petals fly behind her feet.
Amelia accidentally bumps into someone and apologizes quickly before continuing her frantic and desperate city escape.
Trembling, Amelia despairs over her current predicament, reflecting on her lost sense of safety after leaving the castle. Amelia winces in pain as she notices a sharp bleeding injury on her ankle.
Amelia tells herself to stay calm as she resolves to return to His Highness immediately.
The king reflects on his earlier suggestion to visit the square for the festive fireworks display. Two beastkin discuss rumors of a human guest, causing Amelia to listen in growing, anxious fear.
Hostile beastkin voice hatred for humans and express disappointment that the Wolf King has chosen one. Hidden from view, Amelia listens as a beastkin dismisses her status as merely a nominal queen. A warm memory of Alfred and Hannah provides a brief respite from the harsh surroundings. Alarmed by beastskins sniffing for humans, Amelia urgently decides she must escape their presence immediately. Both Alfred and Amelia search frantically for each other within the noisy and crowded city streets.
Alfred expresses his deep worry and hope that no harm has come to his wife, Amelia.
A visual representation of the crowded square shows the two royals searching for one another in vain. Alfred shouts his wife's name while she hears his distant call and looks back toward the crowd. Amelia turns around in surprise, questioning if she truly heard the voice of the Wolf King. Amelia lets out a gasp of surprise as she stands alone among the busy festival crowds. The wolf child waves happily at the hooded girl who helped him find his parents earlier. The small beastkin child trips and cries out in pain as he falls to the ground. Amelia accidentally bumps into a stranger and stammers a quick apology while trying to navigate the city. A beastkin reacts with shock as he realizes the hooded girl standing before him is actually human.
Panic spreads as onlookers identify a human, causing Amelia to despair and wonder what to do.
Amelia is startled as the crowd begins to swarm around her, leaving her vulnerable and afraid. A speech bubble amidst daisies expresses gratitude to the lady for the help she previously provided. The small wolf child smiles happily while hugging Amelia's leg during the crowded festival celebration. Amelia softly replies to the child while standing in the shadows of the festive, crowded city street. A large beastkin demands to know what the woman is doing and orders her away immediately. The beastkin roughly shoves Amelia away, causing a small scratch on the wolf child's hand. Amelia winces in pain as she clutches her hand, which was recently scratched during the struggle.
The father ignores his son's joy and accuses Amelia of attempting to kidnap his child.
Angry beastkin accuse her of kidnapping and demand that she be arrested and thrown into a cell.
Amelia notices an escape route and decides to run while the angry father yells for her.
Panting in terror, Amelia runs as beastkin pursue her, determined to catch her before she escapes. Amelia lets out a cry of fear as her path is suddenly blocked by a large figure. Sensing a presence behind her, Amelia turns and makes a small sound of intense fear. A large hand suddenly grabs Amelia's arm, causing her to gasp in surprise and overwhelming panic. A massive beastkin looms over the girl, his presence creating an atmosphere of intense dread. A desperate thought bubble pleads for the Wolf King to save her from her current situation. Amelia panics and punches at her captor, screaming for the stranger to let her go immediately. Alfred identifies himself as the one holding her, calling out her name to calm her struggle. Amelia raises her tear-streaked face, looking at the Wolf King with an expression of shock.
Alfred pulls a sobbing Amelia into a protective embrace, acknowledging the strangeness of their sudden reunion.
Alfred holds his wife close in a protective embrace while she sobs against his chest.
Surrounded by soft light, Amelia admits to her husband how terrified she felt just a moment ago.
Alfred breathes a heavy sigh of relief and announces that he has finally found his wife.
A beastkin points toward the couple, confirming that he has correctly identified the lady they sought.
A heavy boot steps onto the ground as the group of angry beastkin closes in. Alfred stands protectively with his hand on Amelia's shoulder, facing the crowd with steady resolve.
The beastkin captain shouts that the kidnapper will not escape them as they surround her.
Alfred's expression turns dangerous as he questions what the beastkin just called his human queen.
The beastkin insists that Amelia attempted to kidnap his son while she flinches behind Alfred.
The beastkin captain warns Alfred that he is an accomplice if he continues to protect her. A heartbeat sounds as the beastkin affirms his accusation, heightening the tension of the confrontation.
Horrified, Amelia recalls a childhood memory of being labeled a criminal by an angry human mob.
Alfred's gloved hand firmly squeezes Amelia's shoulder to provide comfort during her intense emotional distress. Alfred leans in and whispers an apology to Amelia for the terrible things the beastkin are saying.
Alfred reaches for his sword and warns the mob to try saying those insults once again.
Alfred's menacing glare makes the beastkin onlookers tremble and gulp in sudden, overwhelming terror. A loud, desperate shout rings out against a backdrop of soft light and falling particles.
Standing before the couple, the wolf child shouts that Amelia is not a bad person.
Tears stream down Amelia's face as she listens to the small child defend her honor.
Murmurs ripple through the crowd as they process the revelation of the girl's human identity.
A beastkin throws an object at the couple while shouting that they are lying.
Alfred catches the thrown object effortlessly while a startled Amelia gasps at the sudden aggression.
Alfred smiles and reassures his wife that he is completely and safely all right. The wind blows Amelia's hood back as she stares at Alfred with wide, tearful eyes.
Onlookers point in shock at Alfred's waist, finally noticing the significant item he is carrying. A close-up reveals the ornate royal crest featuring a rose engraved upon the king's sword hilt.
The crowd recognizes the king's identity, and their anger turns into disbelief and hushed murmurs. A massive declaration over a floral background announces that the human girl is the king's wife.
Alfred holds Amelia close, officially presenting his queen to the stunned citizens of the city.
Alfred's purple eye glares as he states he will no longer tolerate any more slander. The beastkin father looks confused as he is suddenly interrupted by his young son's actions. The child cries out that the human helped him when lost and demands they stop being mean.
Alfred pats the boy's head and praises him for having the courage to speak the trims.
Alfred smiles warmly at the brave child, calling his honesty a truly marvelous thing.
The wolf child beams with happiness and admiration as the king continues to pat his head.
Alfred addresses the crowd, acknowledging the difficulty of removing prejudices while noting the pride of beastkin children.
Looking out over the square, Alfred declares that their children are the pride of the beastkin.
Under a burst of fireworks, Alfred expresses his faith that the citizens can overcome their biases.
The small wolf child waves a happy goodbye as the royal couple departs the say.
Amelia looks down, her thoughts filled with a sense of lingering doubt and deep sadness.
A quiet, dark room stands silent, with only the faint glow of a dying fireplace nearby.
Alfred gently brushes a lock of hair away from Amelia's face as she sleeps fitfully.
Alfred watches her with regret, thinking he shouldn't have brought her to experience something so awful.
Alfred blames himself for the ordeal, reflecting that he was foolish to expect everything to be fine. A bright memory of Amelia's radiant smile serves as a painful contrast to her current suffering.
Alfred calls out his wife's name as she begins to stir and groan in her sleep.
Haunted by nightmares, Amelia hears echoes of being called a lying, damn human. Voices in Amelia's dream blame her for the king's troubles, telling her it is all her fault. Amelia wakes with a start, crying out an apology through her tears as Alfred watches her. Alfred catches her hand and calls her name, trying to pull her out of the nightmare. Sobbing, Amelia blames herself for the tragedies that befell her mother and her husband's current troubles. Alfred holds his wife tightly, his eyes filled with sorrow as he realizes he caused this pain. A title card marks the transition into the next chapter of The Beast King's Bride. A lone figure in white turns around within a vast, dark, and empty void-like space. A blurry vision of Amelia's birthplace appears, bringing back bittersweet memories of her long-lost home. Young Amelia runs excitedly toward the blurred figures of her parents in a fleeting happy memory. The vision shifts to a burning village, and Amelia collapses in despair over her perceived fault. Bound by thorns and chains, Amelia's internal voice brands her a criminal for the village's destruction. Amelia twitches and turns her head as a familiar voice calls out a fragment of her name. Through her tears, Amelia begins to recognize the voice reaching out to her in the darkness. A loud, sharp cry of her name finally breaks through the nightmare to wake her up.
Alfred looks down with a gentle expression and reassures Amelia that everything is all right. Sobbing in Alfred's arms, Amelia thinks it is her fault that he and her mother suffered. Alfred comfortingly strokes Amelia's hair while she remains overcome by intense grief and heavy sobbing.
Squeezing her hands, a trembling Amelia apologizes and insists she is starting to feel okay now.
Alfred reaches out and securely holds Amelia's small, pale hand within his own gloved hands.
Amelia looks up with wide, tearful green eyes while addressing the king with a wavering voice. A gentle voice reassures Amelia that she does not need to maintain a brave front anymore. Alfred kisses her hand while Amelia looks at him with an expression of surprised, blushing vulnerability. Alfred asks Amelia to share what is causing her such anguish without feeling forced to speak. Alfred places a comforting hand on Amelia's head as she looks down with a sorrowful expression. Amelia hesitates to speak as she remains caught in a moment of deep, quiet, emotional conflict.
Amelia worries that the king will probably grow to hate her if she reveals the truth.
Sitting beside her, Alfred holds Amelia's hand as she looks at him with deep, visible hesitation. Amelia takes a deep, shaky breath as she prepares to share the secrets of her past. A single sentence marks the beginning of a story that took place 12 long years ago. The scene shifts to a peaceful, sunny village nestled far away in the quiet, green countryside. Neighbors greet young Amelia warmly as she reflects on the simple life in her childhood home. Young Amelia beams with joy as she asks her mother for permission to play with Laura. Amelia's mother smiles kindly and tells her daughter to be back home before the sun sets. Young Amelia dashes out of the house as her father warns her against wandering into the forest. Young Amelia shouts back that she knows, her face bright with excitement under the summer sun. Two young girls sit in the grass and happily weave delicate flower crowns out of white blossoms. Reflecting on her kind parents and happy days, young Amelia enjoys a moment of pure innocence. A flower crown catches fire as Amelia realizes her childhood happiness would not last forever. Massive, roaring flames consume everything in their path as the peaceful village begins to burn. Terrifying beastkin attack the village, slaughtering innocent people amidst the chaotic and deadly forest fire.
Blood spatters across a pink dress as the narrator explains that the beastkin destroyed their world.
Hiding in the straw, a terrified young Amelia prays that the surrounding nightmare is just a dream.
Young Amelia stares in horror at the destruction, while her heart hammers against her chest in panic.
Collapsing in the ruins, young Amelia cries out for her parents as she discovers their lifeless bodies.
A group of villagers returns to the ruins and reacts with shock at the sight of destruction. Survivors demand to know why Amelia is the only one who managed to stay alive that day.
An angry man points at the girl, accusing her of leading the beastkin to their peaceful village. Young Amelia shudders and weeps as the surviving villagers turn their grief and anger against her. Overcome with trauma, young Amelia's vision blurs as she is told the tragedy is her fault. Adult Amelia explains that the surviving villagers pinned the entire blame on her for being left alive. Alfred looks confused and asks why anyone would ever blame an innocent child for such a tragedy. Amelia grips her skirt tightly as she prepares to reveal the true reason for their intense hatred. Amelia wonders if the blame was because of a secret connection she shared with the beastkin.
Blood splatters against a pale background as the narrative reflects on how terrifying the beastkin were.
Pink flower petals drift through the air, signaling a shift toward a more gentle, bittersweet memory. A young Amelia pets a small, happy wolf pup, revealing that her best friend was Beastkin. Young Amelia picks flowers in the forest, intending to give them to her mother for her birthday. Amelia's green eyes widen in sudden surprise as she notices something unusual hidden in the forest brush. A small, gray wolf pup lies wounded and unconscious on the forest floor among the green leaves. Worried for the creature, young Amelia carries the wounded pup home wrapped safely in her pink cloak. Amelia's parents look at their daughter and the beastkin child with expressions of deep, growing concern.
Amelia notes that her parents looked troubled when she brought the small, wounded beastkin into their home.
Amelia explains that while beastkin weren't allowed, her parents promised the pup could stay and heal. Young Amelia sleeps peacefully beside the wolf pup, suspecting her parents knew the risks they were taking.
The brown-haired girl trembles in terror, convinced that the beastkin intends to take her life.
Looming over her, the hooded wolf beastkin demands to know her business in his territory. She explains she was summoned by the king. The wolf beastkin scoffs with a sharp tsk. The girl flinches as the beastkin remarks that humans are as scum-like as the rumors suggest. Turning his back slightly, the beastkin decides that a formal introduction is the first order. He reveals himself as Alfred Volcarthus, the king of the land of wolves under the moon. Alfred declares that he is not just the king, but her intended husband. The brown-haired girl stares in sheer disbelief at the revelation that her husband is a beastkin.
A fragmented vision shows the girl falling through darkness as a massive claw reaches for her. Narrative text highlights her internal fear that beastkin are the most terrifying entities in the world. A traumatic memory resurfaces of a towering beastkin standing amidst the flames of her burning village. She experiences a brief, peaceful dream of her mother opening curtains to let in the morning.
Still dreaming, the girl wakes slightly and calls out for her mother with a gentle smile.
The dream turns to ash as she remembers her mother was brutally killed by the beastkin.
Vivid flashes of fire and a howling beastkin reinforce the reality of her childhood tragedy. The brown-haired girl jolts awake with a gasp, her face flushed with nightmare-induced panic.
She finds herself in a luxurious bed where a beastkin maid politely acknowledges her awakening.
Realizing she is trapped in the beastkin's domain, the girl trembles violently with renewed fear.
Driven by panic, she scrambles off the bed to get away from the looming wolf maid.
She slips and falls, accidentally pulling down a pitcher of water in her frantic escape attempt.
Hiding against the furniture, she realizes with dread that there is no escape from her situation. The maid finds her as the girl recalls being brought to the castle after fainting. The maid ignores her distress and informs her that the king is waiting for her.
The girl is visibly shaken, questioning why she is being treated with such formal respect.
Recalling her marriage to the Wolf King, she determines she must escape the castle.
The wolf maid firmly grabs her hand and insists on leading her to the dining hall.
Staring into the darkness, the girl is horrified by the implication of being summoned for lunch. Looking at her reflection, the maid notes that the girl's current state makes her hard to beat.
The girl misinterprets the comment, fearing she is currently unpalatable for the king's consumption.
When the maid offers to help her dress, the girl frantically insists she can manage a lamb. The maid pokes her shoulder, remarking that they need to put more meat on her bones. Despite her protests, the girl is seated and dressed in an elegant blue gown. The maid applies liquid to her hands, insisting they take good care of her skin. Feeling like livestock being prepped, the girl endures having her face powdered and blush applied. She concludes that all this grooming is to prepare her to be eaten by her husband.
The girl enters the dining hall and sees Alfred sitting at the end of a table.
Alfred looks up and coolly notes that she has finally woken up for their meal. Paralyzed by his presence, she thinks about how truly terrifying the Beast King is. Staring at the massive empty plate, she wonders if she is intended as the main course. Alfred invites her to dine, but she fears weight gain will make her a better meal. The girl flinches in terror as Alfred calls for the chef to enter the room. Unable to contain her fear, she stands and tearfully begs Alfred not to eat her. Alfred stares with a flat expression, asking if she truly believed he intended to eat her. He sighs as he sets down his cutlery, leaving her to wonder if he is angry. Complaining about the table's width, Alfred stands and moves his chair directly next to her. He fixes her with an intense, singular gaze that makes her heart race with anxiety.
The girl quivers and trembles as the king looms much closer, invading her space.
Swaying on her feet, she internally panics about whether her life is already forfeit.
Alfred orders the chef to bring the main course and her portion to decide.
Haunted by bloody visions, she remains convinced that she is the one destined for the plate.
Amelia reflects that the wolf pup she found long ago was actually more than an animal. Realizing the pup was a beastkin child, Amelia expresses her hope that he is doing well. A blue-gloved hand reaches toward the girl while white flowers bloom softly in the background. Alfred pulls Amelia into a protective embrace as she looks up with an expression of surprise. Surprised to find Alfred holding her, Amelia asks if it is truly His Highness standing there. Alfred thanks his wife for sharing the secrets of her past while gently comforting her. Against a bright blue sky, the narrator resolves to take this secret story to the grave. Young Amelia smiles and reaches out to play with the wolf pup during a happy memory. Locked chains symbolize a story the narrator will never speak of with any other living soul. Alfred sits at his desk, overwhelmed by the many taxing administrative duties required of a king. Alfred watches the heavy rain from his window, concerned about the damage to the towns below. Alfred decides to inspect the water channel after signing documents regarding a beastkin diplomatic agreement. Alfred lets out a weary sigh while resting his head in his hand at his desk. A butler wolf bursts into the room with a massive stack of papers for Alfred's attention. Alfred checks the urgency of the papers before choosing to prioritize his lunch date with Amelia.
Amelia beams with joy while eating, praising the delicious way the herbs were used in the meal.
Alfred watches his wife enjoy her food with a warm and deeply affectionate smile on his face. Amelia apologizes for her enthusiasm while Alfred kindly reassures her and encourages her to keep eating.
Hannah insists that the lady needs to eat much more to gain some weight on her bones.
Alfred gazes softly at his wife as she continues to enjoy her lunch in the palace. Alfred recalls that when Amelia first arrived at the castle, she was too frightened to eat. A dark memory shows Alfred reaching out to comfort a terrified Amelia who feared all beastkin. Amelia looks at her husband with wide eyes, curious about the thoughts currently occupying his mind.
Alfred inquires about her well-being and whether she is experiencing any fatigue after their recent outing.
Alfred reaches out and pats Amelia's head, causing her to react with a look of surprise.
Alfred claims his exhaustion vanishes whenever she is near, causing Amelia to blush deeply in embarrassment.
Hannah teases Alfred about his happiness, leaving a flustered Amelia to shout in a state of embarrassment. A butler Wolf interrupts the meal to urgently inform Alfred of a serious, developing national emergency. Alfred apologizes for leaving and encourages his wife to finish her meal slowly in his absence. Amelia watches Alfred depart with a worried expression, hoping the current emergency is not too serious.
Alfred and his advisors examine a map to discuss the situation regarding a stranded school and flooding.
Advisors report that 20 people are stranded as the flood currents worsen near the city limits. A finger points to the map, explaining that rescue boats cannot be safely deployed yet. Alfred commands his advisors to seek emergency assistance from the Birdkin royal family despite the storm. Alfred slams his hand on the table, refusing to abandon the stranded people despite the severe weather. The advisors stiffen as Alfred expresses his fierce determination to save the lives of his people. Alfred commands his staff to divert floodwaters, offer shelter, and distribute emergency food rations immediately. Servants rush through the halls to carry out orders while a worried Amelia watches the activity. Clasping her hands together, Amelia wonders what she can do to help during this national crisis.
Alfred invites the visitor inside as the sound of a knock interrupts his thoughts in the office.
A hand turns the doorknob as the door to Alfred's dark office slowly begins to open. Amelia enters the room with a cheerful smile, bringing a tray of tea for her husband. Alfred expresses his desire for a warm drink as he turns away from the stormy window. A subtle clinking sound accompanies the serving of tea within the quiet and rain-filled room.
Alfred takes a sip and praises the tea's flavor while standing near the dark office window.
Amelia observes her husband, reflecting on the heavy and difficult burdens that kings must carry alone. Rain pours down outside as the narrator concludes that kings are ultimately powerless against certain tragedies. Amelia looks up with a startled expression as her husband suddenly calls out to get her attention. Alfred reaches his hand toward Amelia as he prepares to show her a specific sight outside. Alfred identifies a specific building through the window and asks his wife if she can see it. The narrator reports that 20 people, including teachers and children, are currently stranded in the school. Amelia expresses her shock and urgent desire to save them, while Alfred explains the weather's difficulty. Alfred gazes through the rainy window, clenching his fist while worrying about the children's fading strength. Alfred apologizes to his wife for causing her worry and acknowledges his subject's hard work. A gloved hand reaches out and gently takes hold of Amelia's small, pale hand. Alfred provides comfort to his wife by gently squeezing her hand as they stand together. Standing before the rainy window, Alfred looks at his wife and offers her his sincere thanks. Amelia explains that her cold tea is from a dry region where people drink it for hydration. Amelia describes her studies on desert plants before a butler interrupts with news of an emergency. The butler reports that people at the school have fallen ill, causing Alfred and Amelia great alarm. Alfred stresses over the failing flood defenses and desperately wonders what course of action to take. Amelia looks down thoughtfully, signaling that she is carefully considering a potential solution to the crisis. The butler looks on with concern as Alfred remains deep in thought regarding the rescue mission. Looking through the rain-streaked window, Amelia considers that she might have a way to help. Amelia looks up with a determined expression, her mind set on sharing her idea with Alfred. Rain continues to pour down heavily against the glass panes of the dark palace window. Alfred looks toward his wife with wide eyes as he processes the suggestion she just made. The butler rushes toward Amelia and skeptically questions what kind of idea she could possibly offer. Alfred's hand reaches into the frame to stop the butler's aggressive approach toward his wife. Alfred asks Amelia to forgive the butler, explaining that the man's only son is among the stranded. Amelia reacts with a look of deep sympathy after learning about the butler's personal stake in the disaster. Surrounded by a magical aura, Amelia asks Alfred if he is familiar with the Palarogi plant. Alfred looks thoughtful as he recalls that the plant she mentioned is commonly called the water tree. Amelia confirms his memory, explaining that the desert plant bears a very hard type of fruit. Amelia explains that the fruit is capable of absorbing and storing massive amounts of water within itself. The two Beastkin assistants realize the potential of using the fruit to combat the rising floodwaters. Amelia looks concerned and bites her lip, wondering if her proposed plan will actually be successful. Amelia worries that the small supply in the botanical garden might not be enough for the rescue. Alfred observes his wife, reflecting on her sudden and brave initiative to save the Beastkin citizens. A warm and prideful smile spreads across Alfred's face as he looks at his courageous queen. Alfred gives the command to set out and gather every Palarogi fruit found within the entire kingdom. The Beastkin staff salutes their king and confirms they will carry out his orders with immediate haste. Amelia watches in awe as the palace staff springs into a coordinated and frantic burst of activity. Alfred leads Amelia toward the garden while servants begin collecting the fruits and preparing for the mission.
A cloaked beastkin warns citizens to stay away from the river as the floodwaters continue to rise.
Alfred looks on with a shocked expression as he spots his wife among the active rescue workers. Shouting her name, Alfred finds Amelia personally carrying a heavy wooden crate filled with the special fruit. Amelia looks up at her husband and simply explains that she wanted to help the rescue efforts.
Amelia bows deeply and pleads for Alfred's permission to assist despite the danger in the weather.
Alfred recalls Amelia's past fear of beastkin and reflects on how much her heart has changed. Alfred grants his permission but strictly orders Amelia to stay right by his side for her safety. Amelia and the other servants work together to carry the crates of fruit through the heavy rain.
The team works in unison to gather the fruits into a large cloth for easier transport and deployment.
Alfred raises his hand and asks if everyone is ready to deploy the fruits into the floodwaters. Holding the fruits, Amelia and the beastkin assistants wait for the final command to begin the toss. A beastkin servant begins the countdown, signaling everyone to prepare for the first lunch. The countdown continues as a determined Amelia grips a fruit and prepares to throw it.
On the count of 3, the team tosses the fruits into the churning water with large splashes.
Amelia clasps her hands and prays fervently that her plan will save the people at the school. Beneath the surface of the flood, a paliragi fruit begins to crack as it starts absorbing water.
A Wolfkin citizen points toward the distance and shouts for everyone to look.
Amelia prays fervently as the surrounding beastkin begin to murmur with anticipation and curiosity.
Amelia looks up in surprise as the floodwater recedes, prompting the Wolfkin guards to cheer. The sun shines on the school building as a Wolfkin father reunites with his children.
A small wolf child looks up with joyful, teary eyes while shouting in sudden recognition.
The father tearfully embraces his child while the royal couple watches the happy family reunions.
Alfred looks off to the side with a thoughtful expression while considering a lingering issue. Alfred identifies the floating bubbles as Amelia panics over the unexpected side effect of her plan.
Bouncy water bubbles float through the air as the citizens begin to play with them happily. Amelia feels depressed for not anticipating the outcome while Alfred laughs at the whimsical scene.
Alfred reassures his flustered wife that everything is fine while gently patting her on the head.
Smirking confidently, Alfred reveals that the leftover water bubbles have given him a brilliant new idea.
A soldier reports that the western lands have secured plenty of water using the paliragi fruits.
Alfred expresses his satisfaction, noting that the surplus water should resolve the kingdom's drought issues. Amelia learns about the drought problem and looks surprised as Alfred explains the situation to her.
Alfred smiles warmly at Amelia while crediting her idea for resolving the national water crisis.
Beaming with joy over her tea, Amelia expresses her sincere happiness at being able to help.
Alfred's heart skips a beat as he gazes intensely at his wife's radiant and happy smile.
Alfred quickly turns his head away, looking flustered by the sudden surge of affection he feels.
A butler approaches with a large stack of documents, noting that the king's work has accumulated.
The butler apologizes for the interruption while placing the heavy pile of paperwork on the table.
Alfred pouts about their interrupted time together while a giggling Amelia offers to help him work.
Alfred rubs his chin thoughtfully as he considers his wife's offer to assist with his duties.
Alfred reaches out to touch Amelia's face, causing papers to fly everywhere in a sudden breeze. Amelia reacts frantically to the scattering documents, while Alfred watches her with a calm, steady gaze. Alfred grumbles about the paperwork constantly getting in his way while he picks up a letter.
A pristine envelope sealed with red wax sits atop the pile of recently scattered royal documents.
Alfred's expression turns serious and shocked as he begins to read the contents of the letter. Amelia notices his sudden change in mood and asks if something is wrong with the correspondence. The narrator explains the letter is from the Tigerkin Kingdom, which is infamous for its violence. After generations of rivalry and a long truce, the two kingdoms have had no recent contact. A formal document lies on the table, marking the end of a long period of silence.
The Tigerkin express a desire to improve relations between the two kingdoms through a royal visit. Hannah finishes styling Amelia's hair, causing the startled girl to jolt at the sudden completion.
Amelia looks worried and questions why the Tigerkin would suddenly want to improve their diplomatic relations.
Hannah discusses the difficulties of party planning while aggressively asserting her dedication to serving her lady. While staff members rush through the castle, Hannah forbids Amelia from helping with the party preparations. Hannah vows to train Amelia into a perfect court lady to ensure the Tigerkin don't disrespect her.
Amelia shouts in shock as the reality of her upcoming royal education sets in at the palace. Amelia is overwhelmed by a massive pile of books covering history, etiquette, and various language arts.
Amelia panics in the library as papers fly around her while she struggles with her assignments.
Amelia realizes she must prepare a formal greeting as the official bride of the Beast King.
A knock at the library door interrupts Amelia as she sits surrounded by piles of study materials. Alfred enters the room and smiles warmly while asking Amelia how her studies are progressing.
Amelia reacts frantically to the king's arrival while clutching her papers with a look of desperation. Alfred laughs about Hannah's strict nature while a flustered Amelia agrees that the maid is intense. Alfred sits beside his wife and recalls that Hannah was also a very strict childhood tutor.
The narrator reflects on how hard Alfred has worked throughout his life to become a worthy king.
Alfred leans in close to his blushing wife amidst a background of bright, blooming yellow flowers.
Hannah slams her hands down, startling the couple and ordering Amelia to get back to her studies.
Alfred tells his wife not to push herself too hard, and Amelia obediently promises she won't.
Vowing to work hard for His Highness, a determined Amelia clenches her hand while eating lunch.
Amelia practices her posture by walking down a palace hallway with a book balanced on her head. A close-up shows Amelia's high-heeled foot slipping on the floor as she suddenly loses her balance. Hannah asks if her lady is all right, prompting a blushing Amelia to apologize for her clumsiness.
Amelia grits her teeth in frustration, reflecting on how hard she is already trying during her training.
Noticing her lady's exhaustion, Hannah kindly suggests that they take a short break from their lessons. During a tea break, Amelia reads that beastkin usually marry within their own specific animal race. Hannah explains that interracial marriages often lead to the non-beastkin partner becoming a lower-ranked side queen.
Amelia's inner monologue reflects on her growing fear that she does not truly belong in the kingdom.
Hannah calls Amelia a special case, leaving the girl to wonder why the maid continues supporting her. Startled out of her thoughts, Amelia confirms she was listening when Hannah calls out to her.
Hannah offers a burst of encouragement, telling her lady that she believes in her ability to succeed. The pair resolves to work hard together as Amelia accepts the maid's enthusiastic and loud support.
Amelia appreciates Hannah's help but falls while dancing, lamenting her persistent lack of progress in that area.
Staring at Alfred's portrait, Amelia vows that she will not do anything to embarrass her royal husband. Hannah informs her lady that she must unfortunately be absent from the castle for a brief period.
Amelia reacts with pure, wide-eyed shock at the news of her mentor's sudden and temporary departure. Hannah apologizes for her departure, but Amelia promises to practice her lessons diligently on her own.
Amelia cries out as she collapses onto the floor during a solo and difficult dance practice session.
Slumped on the floor in dejection, Amelia wonders what she should do about her failing progress. Alfred's voice calls out from the doorway, asking his wife if she is still practicing her dancing.
Amelia looks up in surprise as Alfred enters the room, catching her in a moment of dejection. Amelia apologizes for her poor dancing, causing Alfred to watch her with a quiet, thoughtful expression.
Alfred reaches out his gloved hand toward his wife, signaling his intent to help her stand up.
Standing tall before his wife, Alfred offers to dance with Amelia for the duration of a song. Alfred gently silences Amelia's protests with a touch as she tries to decline his unexpected offer. With a charming and steady gaze, Alfred formally asks his wife if she will grant him a dance.
Amelia formally accepts the dance, leading Alfred to praise her beautiful words while they draw closer. Amelia's eyes widen in surprise as Alfred draws her close to begin their impromptu and intimate dance.
Alfred tells his wife not to look so strained while a nervous Amelia tries to explain herself.
Alfred advises her to treat the dance as a moment of enjoyment rather than a royal duty. Alfred playfully lifts Amelia into the air, causing her to cry out in sudden and startled surprise. As they continue to move together, Alfred encourages his wife to let herself finally relax. Alfred predicts Hannah will be surprised by her improvement, prompting Amelia to offer her sincere thanks.
Amelia's foot twists suddenly, prompting Alfred to dash forward to catch her before she hits the floor.
Falling together onto the soft cushions, Alfred asks if she is all right while Amelia remains speechless.
Amelia stares up at Alfred with a blushing face, her heart racing from the sudden close contact.
A heavy silence falls between the couple as they maintain their close position amidst the scattered flowers.
Alfred leans in closer, his purple eyes fixed intensely on his wife's startled and wide green ones. Alfred's gloved hand squeezes Amelia's arm as the tension between the two reaches a silent peak.
Releasing her hand, Alfred apologizes and asks if she is hurt, while a flustered Amelia reassures him. Surrounded by a romantic aura, the royal couple sits awkwardly apart on a white palace sofa.
Amelia steals a nervous glance at her husband, her face still burning with a deep, radiant blush.
Alfred looks away in deep thought, appearing just as flustered as his wife by their recent encounter.
Amelia clenches her hands over her heart, overwhelmed by the sudden and intense heat she feels.
Noting the late hour, Alfred stands and announces that they should stop their dance practice session.
Alfred turns his back to stop the gramophone, ending the music and the intimate evening moment. Amelia's hand reaches out tentatively toward her husband before she stops herself in the quiet room.
Alfred walks away with a stern expression, while a dejected Amelia follows him out of the room. Alfred admits he wants to stay with Amelia longer as she grips his sleeve tightly. Amelia expresses her desire for one more dance to solidify everything she has recently learned. Alfred stifles a laugh while observing his wife's sudden and intense dedication to her training. Alfred breaks into hearty laughter, his previous tension completely vanishing in his wife's presence.
Amelia panics and apologizes, fearing that her request was selfish given her husband's clear exhaustion.
Alfred's gloved hand reaches out toward Amelia, signaling his intent to grant her earnest request.
Standing with a charming smile, Alfred formally asks Amelia if she will grant him another dance.
Amelia glows with pure joy and excitement at the prospect of dancing with her husband again. Amelia's small hand rests within Alfred's large gloved palm as they prepare to move together. The royal couple resolves to make the upcoming ball a success while dancing amidst floating flowers.
Hannah stares in total disbelief at the sight of her lady dancing with such sudden grace.
Hannah praises the lovely dance, but a modest Amelia insists that Alfred was the one leading.
After Amelia falls, Hannah reflects on the incredible progress her lady has made in mere days.
Hannah's eyes glint with suspicion as she questions if Amelia received secret training from someone else.
Amelia smiles brightly while standing near Alfred, her confidence growing after their successful impromptu dance.
Fired up with sudden determination, Hannah vows to create the most perfect gown for the ball.
Amelia watches in awe as a literal fire of professional passion burns brightly behind her maid.
A bicolored rose stands in the palace garden, marking the passage of several training days.
While watering the plants, Amelia thoughtfully wonders if there is more she can do to help.
Amelia determines that she must find a unique way to contribute to the ball's ultimate success. The bicolored rose reaches full bloom, symbolizing the culmination of Amelia's hard work and preparation.
Alfred slams his hands on his desk, his expression turning fierce as a new crisis emerges. Alfred reacts with sudden anger after the butler delivers a distressing official notification to his office.
Leaning dejectedly over his desk, Alfred orders the news to be passed on to everyone immediately.
Alfred clicks his tongue in frustration, looking completely overwhelmed by the burden of his royal duties. A door slowly opens into a dark bedroom where a single candelabra illuminates the quiet space. Amelia sits up in her bed, deeply focused on reading a large book by candlelight. Alfred's purple eyes peer through the doorway as he silently observes his wife's late-night studies.
Startled, Amelia apologizes for being so absorbed in her reading that she didn't hear him enter.
Amelia offers her husband a warm and radiant smile, greeting him with sincere affection and respect. Alfred looks at his wife with a pained expression, appearing deeply conflicted about his next words.
Alfred reaches out to touch Amelia's face, noting with concern that she looks incredibly exhausted. Amelia explains that she is simply struggling with the small print of a very dense history text. Alfred recognizes the book as a history of the Tigerkin Kingdom and their rival empire, Kegland.
Amelia explains her desire to learn everything possible about their rivals before the Grand Royal Ball.
Amelia continues reading about the historical reasons why diplomatic relations between the two kingdoms previously ceased.
Noticing Alfred's strange and quiet behavior, a worried Amelia asks if her husband is feeling unwell.
Alfred looks down at his wife and simply states that his health is not the problem.
Amelia reflects on her husband's strange acting and wonders if something terrible has recently occurred.
Looking at his wife's happy face, Alfred reflects on how much she is anticipating the event.
Amelia's heart begins to race with sudden anxiety as she waits for Alfred's next serious declaration.
Alfred bluntly informs a shocked Amelia that she is no longer required to attend the ball.
Amelia's history book falls to the floor with a loud thud, reflecting her sudden, crushing despair.
Amelia stands frozen in shock as the finality of Alfred's unexpected command echoes through the room.
The title card for Chapter 20 of the story, Sacrificed to be the Beast King's Bride. Amelia's heart sinks, fearing her recent excitement was premature because she is deemed unsuitable to attend. Alfred has an emotional outburst denying her unsuitability, while Amelia demands to know his true reasoning.
Alfred grits his teeth in frustration, his inner monologue reflecting on how the situation has changed.
Alfred releases a heavy and dejected sigh, appearing completely defeated by the weight of the news. Alfred looks toward his wife and reveals that they have finally received official word from Kegland.
A formal notification reveals that Kagland's first queen is ill, so the second queen will visit instead.
Narration boxes explain that the rival Kagland Empire is currently ruled by two different queens. The first queen is described as compassionate and popular, unlike the prideful and temperamental second queen. Amelia expresses concern for the first queen's health, but Alfred reassures her that the illness isn't serious. Alfred identifies the true problem as the second queen, who harbors an absolute hatred for humans. Alfred explains that humans were historically enslaved in her homeland, which fueled her deep-seated racial prejudice.
Alfred asks Amelia to understand his decision to exclude her, wanting to prevent any painful memories.
A heavy silence fills the air as Alfred reaches out and touches his wife's hand.
Amelia quietly accepts the explanation, her face obscured by the weight of her husband's serious words. Alfred offers to hold a different ball later, acknowledging the current circumstances are far too dangerous. Amelia suddenly shouts that she still wants to go, shocking Alfred with her unexpected and bold determination. Amelia notes that everyone is working hard and expresses her sincere desire to work alongside them. Alfred warns her that her presence could cause significant trouble for the kingdom and for herself. Amelia declares her unwavering desire to attend the ball specifically for the sake of her husband. Alfred reflects on how much Amelia has changed since her arrival as he looks at her.
Alfred reaches out his hand toward his wife, finally won over by her courage and dedication.
Alfred vows to protect her during the event while flowers bloom around the blushing young queen. The day of the ball arrives as a knock sounds at the door during final preparations. Alfred enters the room and asks Amelia if she is ready to begin the royal festivities. Alfred's eye reflects a close-up of the beautifully dressed Amelia, showing his deep and immediate admiration. Amelia stands elegantly in a radiant blue gown, looking like a true and graceful queen of the palace. Alfred gently touches Amelia's face, creating a soft and romantic atmosphere in the quiet room. Alfred praises his wife's beauty, comparing her to a spring goddess in her perfectly suited gown. A flustered and shocked Amelia reacts to the goddess compliment with total embarrassment and wide eyes. Amelia shyly tells Alfred that he looks just as splendid in his formal royal attire too. Alfred turns toward the hallway to lead her as Amelia follows with a slightly nervous expression. The pair resolves to make their entrance as the grand royal ball officially begins at last. Alfred and Amelia hold hands firmly, ready to face the foreign dignitaries as a united couple. Petals fall through the clear sky as the narrator announces that the ball has finally begun. King Bardo of Cagland, a large tigerkin, introduces himself with a polite and formal greeting. An official document identifies the visitor as King Bardo Tyberg of the Tigerkin Kingdom, Cagland. Alfred and King Bardo share a firm and respectful handshake as they meet in the law. Bardo introduces his second queen, Calera, who greets the royal couple with a seemingly pleasant smile. Amelia introduces herself, but she immediately feels a sudden and intense sense of menace from Calera. King Bardo laughs heartily, expressing his great joy at the hospitality provided during the dinner banquet. The banquet proceeds smoothly despite everyone's concerns, while Calera watches everything from behind her fan. Hannah and the staff are exhausted after remaking Calera's entire meal to suit her specific palate. Amelia smiles happily to herself, feeling relieved that the ball appears to be a great success. King Bardo mentions that he has heard the view from the castle balcony is a splendid sight. Alfred offers to personally escort the Tigerkin King to the balcony to see the view himself. Bardo asks if the wives will join, but Calera insists on staying behind with Lady Amelia.
Alfred whispers a promise to return as soon as possible before leaving Amelia with the Tigerkin.
Calera snaps her feathered fan shut, the sound echoing through the room as the men depart. Calea claims she wants to show her gratitude for the hospitality, but her expression makes Amelia flinch. Calea proposes performing a story from her homeland, while a nervous Amelia politely encourages her to continue.
Caleria's assistant suddenly grabs Amelia's arm, demanding that the young queen participate in the planned story.
Amelia is pulled toward the center of the room and told to act according to the lyrics.
Amelia stands isolated under the spotlight while the guests in the shadows begin to snicker at him. Calera begins singing about a human slave, her voice and expression filled with a cruel, mocking tone. The lyrics describe a despicable and lowly being, while Amelia trembles before the menacing Tigerkin Queen. Amelia realizes with horror that she is being cast as the despicable human character. Calea asks if something is wrong while a distressed Amelia trembles before the mocking guests. Calera hides behind her fan while remarking that the role fits the human girl perfectly. Recalling Amelia's past, Calera cruelly identifies her as a former prisoner while spectral chains appear. A musician plays a harp while the Tigerkin King watches the performance with interest. While the Tigerkin snicker, Amelia wonders what to do as the song mocks human greed. Calera sneers as she criticizes Amelia's dress, claiming it appears to be very cheaply made. Amelia recalls how much love Hannah put into making her gown and feels deeply saddened.
Calea asks if Amelia is dissatisfied with the story as thorny vines manifest around them.
Calera laughs at Amelia's resentful gaze while the girl finds herself unable to move. As Amelia's silhouette dances under a spotlight, Calera praises her for playing the criminal well. Commanding the miserable human to cry out, Calera watches as Amelia collapses to the floor. Amelia weeps in silence while the cruel song describes the death of the miserable human. Snapping her fan, Calera demands that Amelia hurry up and kiss the ground for them. Amelia's heart races as she clenches her hands, refusing to submit to the cruel performance. Taking a deep breath, Amelia stands and declares her great respect for all of Beastkin. Calea's face twitches in annoyance as her cruel performance is suddenly interrupted by Amelia's outburst. Hannah and the other maids watch their lady with tears of pride and deep emotion.
Clara insists that if Amelia truly respects them, she must continue playing her lowly role. Stepping forward, Amelia declares that mutual respect requires her to understand the Beastkin race much better. Clara is taken aback by the girl's boldness, while her assistant trembles with repressed rage. The enraged Tiger King raises her fan and screams at Amelia for being a brat. Amelia squeezes her eyes shut in fear as Clara prepares to strike her across the face.
A loud smack resonates through the room as the intended blow is suddenly blocked.
Amelia opens her eyes and realizes Alfred has returned to intercept the strike for her.
Clara sweats profusely while attempting to lie and excuse her violent actions as mere acting.
Alfred glares at the Tiger King Queen and sternly questions if she truly considers this an act. Alfred towers over Clara and informs her that he has an absolute hatred for lies.
Alfred displays an ancient text that proves Calira's song was an intentional and malicious lie.
King Bardo appears behind Clara and sternly demands to know the meaning of her behavior.
The Tiger King slams his gloved hand down to silence his second queen's desperate excuses.
King Bardo strips Clara of her royal title and forbids her from calling herself his queen.
Bardo declares that she has brought shame to their kingdom as the woman trembles in shock.
The former queen huffs in rage and casts a final hateful glance at the human.
Alfred steps between the women as he prepares to address the disgraced Tiger King former queen. Alfred warns that mocking his queen is the same as wagering an entire kingdom against his.
Clara gnashes her teeth in silent fury as she is led away from the hall.
Hannah and the palace maids cheer enthusiastically for their lady's courage and her husband's protection. Amelia gazes up at Alfred with deep admiration after he successfully defends her from the Tiger King.
The discarded fan lies forgotten on the palace floor, signaling the end of the banquet.
Alfred and Amelia rest together at a table while he sighs from the night's exhaustion. Alfred pets his wife's head and tells her she is far too kind for her own good. King Bardo bows his head and offers a formal apology for the rudeness of his queen. Bardo explains that Clara will be banished to a high tower to safeguard their royal secrets. Alfred apologizes for making Amelia experience something painful again, despite his promise to protect her. Amelia gazes at her husband and asks him to stop apologizing for what has happened.
Amelia touches the bandage on Alfred's cheek and expresses her happiness that he protected her.
Alfred formally asks his queen for a dance as the moon shines brightly in the sky. Amelia agrees to the dance as the couple moves together amidst a garden of roses. Amelia beams with joy while thanking Alfred for allowing her to stay by his side. Alfred warns his wife not to speak lightly of the dangerous beastkin instincts he harbors. Under the full moon, Alfred warns Amelia he cannot restrain his instincts much longer tonight. Amelia watches in shock as Alfred's eyes glow red, signaling his instincts have finally awakened. Alfred huffs heavily while struggling against the primal urges surfacing during the full moon night. Alfred pins Amelia down as she gazes at him with a mixture of fear and desire. Looming over her, Alfred admits her kindness makes it harder for him to hold back.
Amelia pleads with her husband to wait as he begins to sniff her neck intimately.
Alfred licks Amelia's neck, praising her delicious taste while pinning her firmly to the floor. Amelia reflects that despite violent history, Alfred is nothing like the bloodthirsty beastkin of old. Reaching out, Amelia gently cups Alfred's face as she chooses to trust her husband completely. Closing her eyes, Amelia focuses on the comforting warmth radiating from Alfred's large beastkin form. Amelia reassures herself that Alfred's warm embrace means everything will be all right between them tonight. Alfred ruffles Amelia's hair before grabbing her hand and offering her one last chance to run.
Alfred licks her again, noting her sweet scent while questioning if her silence means she stays.
Amelia feels the heat of Alfred's gaze burning into her as their intimacy reaches its peak.
Alfred's gloved hand grips Amelia's thigh through her gown as the tension becomes almost unbearable.
After staring intensely, Alfred releases Amelia's hand while she gasps for air in the quiet room. Alfred growls in pain, regaining control as his eyes return to purple while Amelia shouts stop. Amelia pushes herself away from Alfred as he continues to huff from the immense physical strain. Looking dejected and ashamed, Alfred offers a sincere apology for his loss of control tonight. Alfred abruptly leaves the room for fresh air, leaving a concerned Amelia alone in the dark. Covering her blushing face, Amelia reflects on how nerve-wracking their intense and intimate encounter was. Gazing out the window, Amelia notes the beauty of the moon that caused their recent crisis. News spreads through the capital declaring that the human queen has successfully defeated the tiger queen. Hannah shows the newspaper to a fretting Amelia, explaining that the citizens are showering her with praise. Hannah explains that citizens now believe Alfred had excellent judgment in choosing Amelia as his queen. Amelia feels conflicted, fearing people are overestimating her worth because of her association with the king. Narration reveals that Alfred did not return to his secret room on the full moon night. At breakfast, a nervous Amelia greets Alfred while wondering how to behave after their recent intimacy.
Alfred acts perfectly normal as he politely asks Amelia if she slept well the previous night.
Amelia gives a contradictory and flustered answer while reflecting on Alfred's innate goodness despite his instincts.
Alfred chuckles at her confused response, while Amelia insists that she is feeling perfectly fine now.
Alfred acknowledges her well-being over a morning meal of fresh pasta, bread, and some wines.
Amelia ponders her next steps while focusing intensely on the events of the previous night's ball. A Wolfkin officer informs Alfred that the citizens now view Lady Amelia with great positivity and favor. Alfred reflects on the previous night, glad the people recognize his wife's amazing and courageous nature. Touching an old photo, Alfred notes that citizens will learn even more about his remarkable queen soon.
Alfred is shocked to hear that news of Amelia solving the flood has leaked to the public.
The Wolfkin officer admits that he was the one who spread the news about the flood solution. Alfred questions the officer's motivations for leaking the secret, reminding him of his own child's safety.
The officer explains he leaked the information specifically to build public support and a shield for Amelia.
Alfred accepts the explanation while preparing to leave his seat and address his royal duties. Looking out the window, Alfred realizes his wife now has a protective shield made of the citizens. Alfred turns back to the officer to mention one more thing before concluding their official meeting.
Amelia reacts with surprise after learning about a planned campaign tour throughout the entire kingdom. Sipping his tea, Alfred confirms that he will be going on a long journey across the realm.
Amelia feels a pang of loneliness at the thought of being apart from her husband for so long. Steeling her resolve, Amelia grips her hands together while preparing herself for her husband's departure.
Alfred clarifies that Amelia will be accompanying him on the journey, leaving her completely stunned. A cheerful Wolfkin maid named Alma presents several beautiful dresses for Amelia to choose for the trip.
Hannah thinks Amelia is bright while the queen asks what news her maid has.
Hannah whispers about a fertility legend, causing a flustered Amelia to blush in shock.
The royal carriage departs for a kingdom-wide campaign, heading toward their first destination.
Peering out the window, Amelia excitedly spots the ocean as Chapter 23 begins.
Alfred leans toward his wife to point out a landmark on the horizon.
Alfred pulls a blushing Amelia close as he remembers the maid's words about children.
Startled by the sudden intimacy, a flustered Amelia quickly apologizes for her outburst.
Amelia explains her excitement comes from seeing the sea for the first time.
Alfred smiles warmly while mentioning that their destination features many unusual types of fish.
Alfred describes the trade city Tyurus Placenta and its temple famous for accurate prophecies. Amelia expresses interest in hearing a prophecy, but Alfred warns her against ill omens.
Amelia resolves to study different religions after Alfred explains the high influence of priests.
Alfred hints at another famous local spot, causing Amelia's heart to race with anticipation. Alfred asks if Amelia is feverish, but she insists she is fine despite her blushing.
An outside voice announces that the city is finally within their sight.
The carriage arrives at a grand white-columned temple standing tall against the bright sky.
Amelia is awestruck by the temple's size while the high priest offers a greeting.
Alfred shares a firm handshake with the high priest, thanking him for the hospitality.
The high priest welcomes the queen while a nervous Amelia offers her polite thanks.
3 young Wolfkin children peek curiously from behind the high priest's robes.
Amelia feels deeply moved by the children's warm welcome and their gift of flowers.
Alfred is annoyed by separate rooms, but the high priest cites temple sanctity.
The high priest invites them to a feast once they have settled into their rooms.
Alfred leans in and quietly whispers for Amelia to visit his room later tonight.
Amelia happily agrees, feeling touched by her husband's efforts to accommodate her needs.
The couple attends a grand welcome banquet immediately following their arrival in the city. Amelia notices several figures whispering in the shadows behind the temple's pillars. While sipping her tea, Amelia wonders about the meaning of the strange, quiet whispering. After the long day of travel and festivities, Amelia finally relaxes with a sigh. Hannah expresses concern for Amelia's fatigue after such a long journey and a feast. Amelia reassures her maid that the delicious food and lack of alcohol kept her well.
Amelia reflects on the kindness of these beastkin compared to those from her tragic past.
Hannah prepares to ask her lady a question while Amelia finishes her tea.
Hannah holds up a specific dress and asks if Amelia was the one who packed.
A sudden knock at the door startles both women as they discuss the mysterious luggage.
Amelia nervously invites the visitor to enter the room as the door handle turns.
Alfred appears in formal attire, inviting his shocked wife out for a night excursion.
Amelia is amazed by the festival's liveliness and realizes Alfred packed her festival clothes. Amelia feels safe among the kind people as a local beastkin offers them a drink.
Alfred silences Amelia's question with a finger to her lips as they move alone. Alfred explains that in the city crowd, they are simply just another ordinary couple. Alfred playfully teases Amelia about her attempts to hide his identity on their previous date. Amelia's face turns bright red from the overwhelming embarrassment of her husband's teasing. Amelia stomps her feet in frustration, accusing Alfred of intentionally teasing her.
The silhouette of the couple stands beneath the moonlit palm trees of the coastal city.
Amelia gazes up at Alfred and asks once more where they are heading to mate. Alfred gently pats his wife's head, reassuring her that they have almost reached their destination. Amelia's eyes widen in surprise as she catches sight of something truly magnificent. They arrive at a moonlit beach where Amelia marvels at the dreamlike beauty of the flowers.
Alfred recounts the legend of a maiden whose prayers once calmed the raging ocean.
Hearing footsteps, Amelia turns in surprise as a magical pop sounds in the night air. Amelia watches in absolute awe as massive, glowing white flowers begin to bloom before her.
Startled by a sudden flurry, Amelia flinches as petals burst into the air around them.
Gazing at the glowing white flakes, Amelia wonders if these are the feathers of purification.
Alfred explains that this rare, sparkling sight only occurs for one night during the season. Amelia expresses her delight at the dreamlike scene, while Alfred agrees with a soft smile. Under the glowing crescent moon, Alfred and Amelia share a tender moment amidst falling feathers.
A heavy bell tolls, casting an ominous shadow over the couple's romantic and peaceful evening.
Amelia realizes with horror that the city below is burning as the alarm bell continues. Alfred observes that the strong winds are causing the devastating fire to spread very rapidly. Recalling her own past, Amelia trembles as screams echo from the burning village below them.
Alfred grabs Amelia's face, urgently commanding her to snap out of her state of shock.
Amelia resolves to pull herself together, knowing she must focus on others instead of herself. The royal couple takes command, directing fleeing citizens to seek refuge inside the local temple.
Alfred orders his staff to gather everyone immediately as they rush toward the temple grounds.
Alfred studies the city map, questioning where the fire started and noting the warehouse district.
Alfred suspects foul play, noting that the warehouse district is an unlikely place for fires. A wolfkin explains that many citizens are slow to seek refuge while searching for family.
Amelia asks how she can help as reports reveal the temple clinics are completely overflowing.
Alfred orders the entrance cleared to transform the temple into an emergency sickbay immediately.
Alfred places Amelia in charge of the sickbay, leaving her questioning her own capabilities.
A wolfkin doctor and a maid volunteer their assistance to support Amelia's new medical role. Gritting her teeth, Amelia prepares to face the crisis and help the many injured citizens. Standing before a backdrop of lilies, Amelia bravely declares her commitment to lead the efforts. Amelia takes charge, ordering beds to be set up and gathering blankets for the victims.
Amelia directs Alma to gather curtains and napkins to be used as emergency bandaging materials.
Alfred instructs the workers to space out the beds so doctors can examine the injured. Amelia directs a mother and child to the waiting room to treat the critically injured. Gritting her teeth, Amelia leads a wounded citizen toward help as she ignores her fatigue. Alfred reflects on their efforts to shelter victims until the fire finally abated the next day. Amelia stands silently amidst the smoking ruins, observing the total devastation of the coastal city. Amelia wipes away a stray tear, reminding herself that there is no time for crying. Looking over the scorched earth, Amelia vows to do everything possible for the surviving citizens. Alfred sits in deep thought until a sudden knock at the door interrupts his reflection. Amelia appears at the doorway, covered in soot and grime from her long night's work. Amelia reports that the situation has settled, while Alfred acknowledges her report with a look. Amelia reports that 18 victims are stable, while Alfred rewards her efforts with a pat. Alfred offers his sincere thanks to Amelia, who reacts with humble shock at his praise. Amelia asks about the fire's status, learning that half the city's homes are now gone. Alfred notes that the safety of merchants and craftspeople will help the city rebuild quickly.
Amelia asks if the source of the fire has been found, her face full of concern.
Alfred's hand grips tightly in silent fury as he prepares to share a grim discovery. Alfred reveals the dark possibility that the devastating fire was actually an intentional act of arson. A wolfkin officer warns of a targeted attack and urges the queen to return home. Alfred silences the officer's speculation, while the man bows in a quick and formal apology. Alfred turns away and offers a quiet, brooding apology to his wife for the situation. The butler notes the officer's concern, which Alfred acknowledges with a short and grim reply. A formal decree commands that Amelia must return to the safety of the castle immediately. Amelia questions why she must leave when she wants to stay and help the citizens. Amelia insists on staying with everyone, leaving the staff behind her looking surprised and moved. Alfred advises the brown-haired girl to stop appearing as though she is facing certain death. Leaning in close, Alfred clarifies that his kind does not consume human beings for food. The brown-haired girl reacts with confusion as a wolf servant brings a covered silver dish. The table is filled with fresh bread, garden salad, and a large roasted bird centerpiece. The brown-haired girl stares at the lavish human meal with wide, trembling, emerald green eyes. Alfred stands and leans over the table, his presence looming over the seated brown-haired girl. While carving the meat, Alfred notes the meal is comparable to standard human culinary choices.
The girl observes the spread of salad and bread, surprised that meat is also included.
Alfred serves her a plate, explaining it is traditional for the family head to serve. Stunned by his hospitality, the brown-haired girl looks up at the king in silent shock. Alfred sits and encourages her to begin eating before the prepared food becomes cold. After taking a tentative bite, the brown-haired girl is amazed by the meal's wonderful flavor. Alfred watches her closely with a sharp, calculating gaze as she enjoys the warm food. Seeing her reaction to the simple meal, Alfred remarks that it is merely a soup. The girl recounts her prison diet of cold soup. Alfred reflects on human cruelty toward humans. Alfred turns away with a somber expression after hearing about the girl's past prison treatment. The brown-haired girl flinches as wolf servants approach to clear the table after the meal. Alfred stares at her and simply announces the next part of the schedule is beginning. Alfred looks at her and bluntly commands the brown-haired girl to go take a bath. Horrified, the girl assumes the bath is a final step in seasoning her for a meal. She gulps in terror, viewing the prospect of a bath as a death sentence for consumption. Alfred offers a slight smirk while explaining that maintaining cleanliness is an important requirement. The wolfmaid begins leading the brown-haired girl away from the dining hall toward another wing. Walking down the corridor, the brown-haired girl glances back with a nervous and fearful look. A wolf's ear perks up as the girl continues her journey through the castle halls. Alfred remains at the table, watching the girl leave while holding a delicate porcelain teacup. Pink petals flutter through the air around the brown-haired girl as she walks toward her destination. Despite his kindness, the girl reminds herself that Alfred remains a predator of the beastkin race. Other beastkin servants watch from the shadows and whisper as the girl is led past them. The servants gossip among themselves, wondering what their king intends to do with this human girl. Looking around the hall, the girl feels overwhelmed by the presence of so many beastkin. Clenching her dress, she decides this transition is her final opportunity to attempt an escape. The wolfmaid stops at an ornate door and invites the brown-haired girl to enter. A large, fur-covered hand reaches out and turns the golden handle of the heavy bathroom door. The brown-haired girl squeezes her eyes shut, fearing what she will find inside the room. Bright light spills into the hallway as the heavy double doors are pushed fully open. Tentatively, the brown-haired girl peeks with one eye as she enters the grand, luminous room. The girl and maid enter a massive, luxurious bathroom decorated with statues and pink flowers. The brown-haired girl is absolutely breathless, stunned by the sheer beauty of the grand bath. She sniffs the air and realizes the entire room is filled with the scent of roses. The wolfmaid confirms the girl's observation, stating that Alfred is quite fond of roses. The girl's heart pounds as she questions the meaning behind Alfred's specific preference for the flower. The maid describes the meticulous process of scenting the girl's skin using fresh morning rose petals. Recalling the meal, the girl realizes the tea and cake were also flavored with roses. Looking in the mirror, she remains convinced she is being prepared for the king to eat. The girl retreats as the maid approaches, her anxiety rising despite the luxurious surroundings. The wolfmaid lets out a sigh and clarifies they are not beautifying her for eating. The brown-haired girl looks up with a skeptical expression, unable to fully trust the maid's words. She remains uncertain about the wolfkin's diet while the maid urges her into the water. The wolfmaid playfully asks if the girl would prefer it if she actually were being eaten. Alfred confirms his intention to stay and work alongside his wife during the crisis. Amelia passionately declares her desire to help while Alfred reflects on her name in silence. The wolfkin guards enthusiastically vow to protect Lady Amelia even at the cost of their lives. Amelia thanks the guards while Alfred proudly observes that his queen is truly remarkable. A figure in ceremonial robes stands at the doorway as the royal couple looks on. The gray wolfkin head priest accuses the human queen of being a disaster-bringing ill omen. Amelia's eyes widen in horror as she processes being labeled a bringer of misfortune. Alfred sternly demands to know if the priest is targeting those accusations at his queen. Injured wolfkin citizens murmur in disbelief about the possibility of a human starting the fire. The wolfkin maid Alma angrily defends Amelia, saying such accusations should never be voiced. Alma highlights Amelia's tireless work for the people as the queen watches with deep gratitude. Two citizens admit the maid has a point, yet remain wary of the head priest's authority. The head priest silences the opposition, citing ancient legends that human queens cause great misfortune. The priest blames Amelia for the warehouse fires, while Alfred realizes the true nature of the situation. Alfred warns the priest against spreading baseless fears and mocking the queen, threatening severe consequences. Alfred's intense glare causes the head priest to gulp in fear and break out in sweat. Amelia looks at the fearful citizens, sensing their underlying anxiety toward her human presence. Amelia reflects on her past, realizing that fear of the unknown keeps people from understanding her. Reaching out, Amelia takes Alfred's hand and expresses empathy for why the priest would speak out. Despite the accusations, Amelia remains steadfast in her commitment to help the people in the city.
Amelia asks how she can prove her intentions and earn the trust of the suspicious citizens. The head priest stammers in response to Amelia's sincerity while still harboring doubts about a human.
A Wolfkin priest whispers about a legendary plant known as the Tears of the Goddess.
Alfred and Amelia react with confusion to the mention of the mysterious and legendary plant. The head priest explains that only those acknowledged by the goddess can gather the plant without tears. Amelia formally accepts the challenge to pass the goddess's trial alone to prove her worth. Clad in a cloak, Amelia rushes through the dark woods to gather the plant before morning. A flashback shows Alfred giving Amelia a protective dagger in case she encounters any danger. Amelia grips the dagger tightly, hoping she will not have to resort to using it tonight. The deep, dark forest stands before Amelia as she ventures further into the night air. Haunted by doubt, Amelia worries about wild animals and her own worth if she fails the trial. Slapping her cheeks, Amelia resolves to stop self-pity and succeed for the sake of the people. A sudden rustle in the bushes startles Amelia, causing her to draw her dagger in fear. The rustling continues in the thick, dark foliage as Amelia remains on high alert. A large shadow lunges forward, causing Amelia to scream as she prepares to defend herself. Alfred reveals himself, calling out her name as a shocked Amelia recognizes her husband. Alfred offers a gentle smile and apologizes for frightening his wife in the middle of the woods. Alfred explains he arrived because his guards are managing the city well without his constant presence. Alfred embraces Amelia among blooming flowers, promising he would never let her face this trial alone. Amelia reflects on her past fears of loneliness, feeling profound relief at Alfred's supportive presence. The sound of footsteps crunching on the forest floor signals their arrival at the trial site. They reach a beautiful moonlit altar where Amelia marvels at a magnificent goddess statue and flowers. Amelia's hand trembles slightly as she reaches out to touch one of the glowing white petals. Alfred asks if this is the plant, while Amelia notes with surprise that she hasn't shed tears. Amelia realizes the Tears of the Goddess is actually a plant called Marua from her homeland. Amelia explains to Alfred that Marua grows in the south and is in the royal garden. Amelia joyfully describes the plant's medicinal properties, noting it can heal everyone's burn wounds quickly. Praying to the goddess, Amelia feels acknowledged and gratefully prepares to take the healing plants. Alfred's ears suddenly twitch as he detects a change in the atmosphere around the forest altar. Alfred urges Amelia to hurry as rain begins to fall on a lonely cottage in the distance. Amelia appears physically overwhelmed, her face flushed and glistening with sweat in the dim light. Alfred commands Amelia to undress, while narration explains his royal lineage as the true queen's son. A flashback depicts the inheritance battle that led to Alfred's older brother being exiled from the kingdom. Alfred reveals his brother's last known location, while Amelia senses the deep pain of his long-standing longing. Gazing into Alfred's eyes, Amelia tenderly offers to share the burden of his hidden emotional suffering. Amelia internally minimizes her role, feeling like nothing more than a symbolic figurehead for the kingdom. Amelia resolves to support Alfred, feeling a strong desire to return the kindness he has consistently shown. Alfred leans in closely toward his wife, his gaze softening as he whispers her name. Beside a crackling fireplace, a soft plea is voiced for the king to proceed with their intimacy. Reflecting on Alfred's constant support, Amelia watches him through a lens of deep affection and rising desire. The couple leans toward each other, their lips inches apart as the surrounding air fills with romantic tension.
Bathed in the warm glow of the fire, Alfred and Amelia share a passionate and deeply intimate kiss.
Flashback imagery shows a younger, chained Amelia feeling absolute despair after being designated as the Beast King's sacrifice.
The rhythmic sound of the carriage wheels signals the continuation of the royal couple's journey across the land. Passing through lush green landscapes, the royal carriage heads toward the next destination on their tour. Alfred checks on his wife's comfort, but he notices her staring at him with a dazed expression. Amelia quickly snaps out of her trance, her face turning bright red as she insists she is fine. Alfred accepts her reassurances while a sudden gust of wind sweeps through the open carriage window. Amelia's sun hat is snatched away by the wind, prompting a quick reaction to retrieve it. Alfred catches the hat and gently places it back on Amelia's head, causing her to blush even deeper. Amelia tries to steer her thoughts away from their recent intimacy by asking about their upcoming city visit. Alfred explains that the next city is governed by the Senna Louise family, renowned for their skill as falconers. Noticing a shift in Alfred's demeanor, Amelia wonders if her husband is keeping a secret from her. A white-furred Wolfkin noble warmly welcomes the royal party upon their arrival at the grand estate. Alfred shares a formal handshake with Duke Senna Louise, expressing his satisfaction with the Duke's well-being.
The Duke eagerly invites the couple to tour his new garden, interrupting Amelia's attempt at a formal greeting. Alfred follows the Duke's lead while casting a side glance at Amelia as they head toward the barton.
Entering the garden, Amelia is instantly captivated by the meticulously maintained flora and abundant fruit trees. Alfred playfully apologizes for his wife's intense botanical curiosity, much to the Duke's mild bewilderment.
Amelia's attention is suddenly drawn upward as she notices a significant movement in the sky. A large bird of prey swoops down from above, startling Amelia as Alfred calls out her name. A massive brown hawk glides majestically through the clear blue sky above the estate grounds. In a display of dominance, a white eagle suddenly dives and perches upon the hawk's back. Alfred moves closer to protectively check on Amelia while feathers from the aerial scuffle drift down around them. A sharp, high-pitched whistle rings out through the air, coming from the white wolfkin standing nearby.
Christina, the Duke's daughter, makes a grand entrance with her white eagle companion as the local falconry expert.
Approaching closely, Christina remarks on the rumors she has heard regarding the legendary human queen.
Narration identifies Christina as the Duke's only child, noting her father's slight disappointment in her tomboyish nature.
Despite her father's concerns, Christina is shown as a refined noblewoman who maintains a confident and striking presence. Looking at Christina's intense gaze and charismatic aura, Amelia finds herself feeling an unexpected flutter in her heart.
A palace maid finishes settling Amelia into her quarters, offering her assistance before departing for the night.
The sound of the door latch clicking shut leaves Amelia alone to reflect on the day's encounters.
Alma grumbles about Christina's intimidating personality, while Amelia finds comfort in knowing Alfred is nearby.
Morning birds chirp and fly across the sky, signaling the start of a new day at the estate.
Over breakfast, Amelia inquires about Alfred's plans for the day, learning he will join the Duke for hawking.
Amelia feels a wave of disappointment at being excluded from the hunt as Christina observes her reaction.
Christina places her hand firmly on the table, drawing everyone's attention as she makes a sudden move.
Leaning in, Christina captures Amelia's hand and invites her to enjoy a private tea time together instead.
Amelia enthusiastically accepts the invitation, leaving a slightly sweating Alfred looking on in the background. During their meeting, Christina reveals she was concerned upon hearing news of Amelia using the mysterious water fruit. Christina mentions the Palarogi fruit, surprised by how Amelia used it to manage the recent flood. Over tea, Christina explains their land's transformation from desert thanks to trees with deep, protective roots.
Christina proudly details her extensive research on disaster prevention and her natural drive to serve the people.
Amelia admires Christina's virtues but suppresses her own flustered reaction, reaffirming her devotion to King Alfred. A firm purple fruit is plucked from its vine with a sharp, quick motion.
Christina offers the fruit, teasing that it surpasses formal palace meals, much to the head cook's chagrin.
Amelia heads back alone, delighting in her enjoyable tea time with the knowledgeable and friendly Christina.
Amelia appreciates Christina's offer to walk her back but decides not to impose on her kindness.
Amelia envisions Christina as the ideal partner for Alfred, noting their shared refinement and deep mutual understanding.
A sudden realization causes Amelia's eyes to widen in shock as she catches a faint sound.
Overhearing the staff, Amelia learns of their preference for Christina as queen over an ordinary human.
Amelia is paralyzed by the revelation that Alfred and Christina were once formally engaged to be married.
Haunted by the image of the couple together, Amelia hides in the shadows, overwhelmed by painful insecurity.
Distraught, Amelia stumbles through the palace corridors as the heavy sound of a door echoes nearby.
Slumping against the wall, Amelia struggles to process the discovery of her husband's former engagement.
The vision of Alfred and Christina's past intimacy continues to torment Amelia as she walks away.
Darkness surrounds Amelia as she breaks down into tears, unable to escape her mounting feelings of inadequacy.
During an outing, Alfred notices Amelia's distracted state while Christina comments on their easy rapport. Concerned for her health, Alfred offers to cancel their plans, but Amelia fears being a hindrance. A gloved hand is raised to signal for attention during the awkward silence between the trio.
Christina volunteers to join them, offering to escort Amelia back if her condition worsens during the trip.
Christina acknowledges Amelia's dedicated nature, understanding that staying behind would only cause the human queen more worry.
Christina offers a gentle, encouraging smile as she observes the queen's fragile state.
Amelia gazes at Christina, her mind racing with thoughts about the noblewoman's incredible character and history. Internalizing her insecurity, Amelia concludes that the amazing Christina is the person who truly deserves to be queen.
Upon arriving at the school, a group of children excitedly swarms Christina, shouting her name and greeting. Alfred notes Christina's enduring popularity with children, attributing it to her profound and genuine kindness.
A sharp twinge of sadness strikes Amelia as she watches the warm reception Christina receives from everyone. A young Wolfkin girl admires the queen's sparkling hairpiece, eagerly asking to get a closer look. Amelia kindly allows the child to touch her jewelry, eliciting an enthusiastic reaction from the impressed girl. Alfred observes that the children have warmed to Amelia, while she finds their innocent excitement truly endearing. Alfred's affectionate gesture cheers Amelia up, though the children playfully tease them for their romantic display. Christina gently corrects a child's behavior, teaching him that pointing is an impolite gesture. Christina suggests ending the visit soon, holding Amelia's hand while Alfred watches the two women interact. Tormented by doubt, Amelia remains convinced that Christina would be the far superior choice to serve as queen. A young boy rudely mocks the girls, claiming they shouldn't be arrogant or hold high opinions. The boy loudly asserts male superiority, insisting that girls should simply obey orders and follow the lead.
As the children argue about gender roles and authority, Amelia realizes she must intervene before the situation escalates. The boy pushes a girl down the stairs, prompting a frantic cry from Amelia as everyone rushes forward. A small brown loafer falls onto the brick steps as the scene of the accident unfolds.
Christina catches the falling girl, shielding her from injury as Alfred checks on their well-being. Amelia sighs in profound relief, her heart still pounding from the terror of the near tragedy. A small, trembling hand reaches out and grips the fabric of the queen's dress for support.
The frightened boy hides behind Amelia, shaking as he tearfully admits he didn't intend to cause harm.
Christina gently examines the crying girl, asking if she sustained any injuries during the sudden fall.
Christina comforts the sobbing child, reassuring her that the minor scratch is not her fault. The other children swarm Christina with bandages to treat the small scratch on her own arm. Christina ends up covered in several haphazardly placed bandages, much to the amusement of the onlookers. Alfred smiles warmly at the wholesome scene as the children continue to fuss over the kind Christina. Still overwhelmed with guilt and confusion, the little boy weeps as he considers how to make amends.
Amelia holds a pink, lace-trimmed handkerchief as she prepares to comfort a crying child. Amelia leans down to gently ask the young wolfkin boy what he should be.
Blushing, the boy blushes and grips the handkerchief while admitting that he needs to apologize. The boy approaches Lily, a small wolfkin girl with yellow fur who looks surprised. Wiping Lily's face, the boy apologizes and resolves to protect those he likes as he cries.
Alfred shares a moment with the boy, explaining his own desire to protect his loved ones.
Christina encourages the boy, stating that gender and age do not limit one's protective spirit. Christina instructs the children to study and be respectful in order to cherish their friends.
Alfred smiles warmly as he praises the noblewoman for providing a truly perfect answer.
During a celebratory bird release, the young boy presents a yellow rose to the blushing Lily.
Alfred observes Christina, privately noting in thought that they appear well-suited for one another. Amelia looks down in quiet sorrow, feeling the weight of her perceived human inadequacies. Alfred and Duke Senna Louise discuss the numerous gifts received from the appreciative local citizens.
A festive basket of fruit and sunflowers sits alongside a green-wrapped royal gift.
Duke Senna Louise asserts his firm belief that his daughter is far more suitable to be queen.
Other nobles agree as Alfred's anger begins to flare at the public challenge to Amelia.
Alfred turns to a distressed Amelia, asking if she was already aware of the situation.
Amelia offers a silent, pained nod as she confirms her knowledge of the former engagement.
Alfred declares his absolute devotion, while a nearby noble whispers a doubt about Amelia's leadership.
Alfred's ears twitch in fury as he demands to know if they challenge his judgment.
Duke Senna Louise proposes a royal trial between Amelia and Christina to determine the rightful queen.
The nobles eagerly support the proposal as a definitive way to validate the human queen. The Duke explains that the trial will provide absolute clarity on who is most suitable.
A heavy silence follows as Christina sets down her teacup with a weary, audible sigh.
Christina calmly states that she has no objection to participating in the dangerous royal trial. Turning toward the queen, Christina asks if Amelia also accepts the terms of the challenge.
Amelia reels at the realization that she must compete with Christina for the royal crown.
A sense of overwhelming pressure and tension fills the room after the formal trial proposal.
Surrounded by roses, Amelia faces the reality of competing against Christina to remain the queen. The history of the royal trial is presented as an ancient and formidable test of leadership. The trial involves navigating a dangerous cavern to prove one's divine aptitude to rule. Legends detail the trials used for challenging improper rule or deciding between royal twin heirs. Alfred expresses shock at the revival of a trial that once caused a candidate's death. Christina acknowledges the past tragedy while maintaining her composure regarding the current royal situation. The trial centers on touching a glowing purple pyroxene stone to confirm one's regal aptitude. Amelia is visibly shaken by the danger while Alfred remains deep in troubled, silent thought. Alfred refuses to let his wife face danger, prompting a sharp, defiant rebuttal from the Duke. Fearing for the kingdom's stability, Amelia stops Alfred from taking the trial in her stead. Amelia clings to Alfred's arm, urging him not to abuse his royal power in this place.
Alfred softens his gaze, remembering how often Amelia has provided him with such warnings.
Amelia looks at her husband with a mixture of determination and lingering, deep-seated insecurity. Standing tall, Amelia formally declares her intention to undergo the dangerous and legendary royal trial.
Christina observes the human queen, noting that the final choice rests solely with her decision.
The nobles cheer, convinced that Christina's victory and Amelia's defeat are already predetermined. A close-up reveals Amelia's intense green eyes as she processes her daunting and risky decision. Internally, Amelia admits her doubt, feeling she stands no chance against the perfect Lady Christina. Despite her fear, Amelia's desire to stay by Alfred's side remains her primary motivation. Haunted by the noble's taunts and the trial's bloody history, Amelia shivers in her bed.
Carrying a lantern, Amelia wanders through the darkened palace corridors to find her husband.
Amelia peeks into a room, catching sight of Alfred's silhouette during the quiet night.
Clutching a lantern, Alfred enters a room while Amelia follows him through the dark corridor.
Amelia observes Alfred's movements from a distance, wondering if the king still has tasks to complete.
Peeking from behind a corner, Amelia watches Alfred approach a door in the Duke's wing.
A close-up shows Alfred's large furred hand knocking firmly on the wooden door of the room.
Amelia gasps quietly as she hides, her eyes wide with curiosity about the late-night meeting. Alfred stands at the threshold of the room as a woman in a nightgown greets him. Inside the flower-filled room, Christina greets Alfred by noting his boldness in visiting his former fiancé. At the trial site entrance, the Duke cautions Christina to remain careful during the upcoming challenge.
Palace maids cheer for Christina, who graciously thanks them for their confidence in her inevitable success.
Standing at the edge of the forest, Alfred calls out to Amelia as she prepares herself. Alfred leans in toward his wife, expressing concern about whether she managed to get any sleep. Forcing a weak smile, Amelia reassures Alfred that she will be fine, despite her obvious exhaustion. Christina interjects by admitting she also stayed awake all night, catching Alfred's brief and silent attention. Alfred pulls Amelia into a protective embrace, while she internally struggles with feelings of being selfish. Holding Alfred tightly, Amelia thinks about her deep desire never to let go of his warmth. Reassured by Alfred's promise to always stay by her side, Amelia clings to his royal garments. Duke Senna Louise clears his throat loudly to interrupt the couple's intimate moment and proceed with business. Christina challenges Amelia to give their all today, prompting the human queen to confirm her readiness. Looking back at her husband, Amelia follows Christina toward the dark entrance of the ancient cavern. Alfred offers a final nod of encouragement as the two women officially begin their royal journey. Watching them disappear into the cave, the Duke remarks that only waiting for the outcome remains. Alfred stares into the darkness with a grim expression, privately admitting he has a bad feeling. Entering the cavern, Amelia nervously acknowledges that this is where the legendary trial is held. Christina moves ahead with confidence, noting that her eyes are already adapting to the deep subterranean darkness. Deep inside the cave, Alfred's wife lights a torch as the two women reach a plateau. A massive, ornate stone door looms before them, signaling the formal beginning of the trial. Standing before the open portal, the two candidates prepare to face the challenges of the trial.
Christina leads the way into the inner chamber while Amelia follows closely behind with her torch. Amelia suddenly slips on the slick, rocky floor, crying out in surprise as she loses her footing.
Recovering quickly, Amelia watches Christina navigate the difficult and dark terrain with effortless grace and speed.
Amelia marvels at how Christina manages to walk through the uneven ground without any apparent struggle.
Despite the physical strain and sweat on her brow, Amelia remains determined to keep moving forward. Narrowing her eyes in focus, Amelia reminds herself that she cannot afford to lose this challenge.
The pair arrives at a massive spiral staircase winding upward into the ceiling of the cavern.
Gazing at the towering structure, Christina suggests they begin their ascent to reach the very top. Christina climbs the stairs with ease while Amelia struggles to maintain her pace from a distance. Huffing from exertion, Amelia realizes the staircase is a test of stamina and regrets her initial underestimation.
Amelia reflects on her need for more stamina to support Alfred while watching Christina pull further ahead.
Sweating and panting, Amelia wonders if simply climbing these stairs is enough to pass this section.
A close-up shows Christina's wolf ear twitching as she detects an alarming sound from the staircase.
Christina silences Amelia with a gesture, sensing a sudden and dangerous shift in the structure's stability. The staircase begins to crumble beneath them, prompting Christina to scream for Amelia to run faster. Falling stones rain down as Amelia wheezes, pushing herself to reach safety before the stairs vanish. Amelia collapses onto a stable stone platform with a heavy thud, gasping for air after the climb. Christina catches her breath and explains that the stairs were likely designed to crumble after a time. A close-up reveals Amelia's trembling chin and the sweat dripping from her face as she recovers. Christina looks down at the exhausted human queen and asks if she is ready to give up. Gripping her cloak with renewed resolve, Amelia shouts back that she will not quit the trial. Remembering the Duke's warning about the people's acceptance, Amelia watches the Wolfkin noble from the shadows. Exhausted but defiant, Amelia vows to endure any hardship to remain by King Alfred's side. Amelia contemplates the stamina test while wondering what challenges await in this second part of the trial.
Christina explains they must solve a tile puzzle to proceed, noting its familiarity to local Beastkin children.
Amelia expresses her complete confusion regarding the solution to the complex sliding tile puzzle before her.
A mechanical clicking sound echoes through the chamber as Christina skillfully manipulates the stone puzzle tiles.
Amelia's eyes widen in shock as she realizes Christina has already successfully solved the intelligence test.
Christina moves ahead toward the next stage while Amelia struggles to finish her own stone puzzle.
Despite feeling hopelessly behind, Amelia resolves to continue and finally extracts her own royal crown tile. Clutching the red tile tightly, Amelia realizes she must hurry to catch up with the noblewoman.
Amelia is startled to find Christina waiting for her instead of proceeding further into the cavern.
Christina suggests the intelligence test was somewhat unfair given her cultural advantage over the human queen.
Christina turns away while Amelia looks on with surprise, still holding her completed puzzle tile.
The two reach a final ornate door, preparing for what records indicate is the trial's conclusion.
Amelia gazes at two broken, narrow bridges over a dark chasm and shudders in visible fear.
Amelia reads a weathered inscription suggesting that crossing the bridge requires companionship rather than solitary effort. Christina and Amelia ponder the meaning of the ancient message on the illegible and damaged stone.
A memory of Alfred and Amelia holding hands appears, framed by an ornate gold mirror's edge.
Amelia realizes she is no longer alone and confidently tells Christina she understands the riddle's message.
Rhythmic footsteps sound as the two women begin their coordinated walk across the parallel wooden bridges.
Amelia beams with joy as she and Christina successfully reach the other side of the chasm. A sudden, loud rumbling sound echoes through the cavern as stones begin to shift and fall.
A sharp scream of terror rings out as the structural stability of the cavern suddenly fails.
Outside, Duke Senna Louise paces uneasily while Alfred watches the cave entrance with a look of concern. Alfred and his companion realize the missing reservoir water is likely coursing through the trial's underground cavern.
Alfred stares into the dark cave and shouts his wife's name as the ground begins to shape.
A small, dark pool of blood stains the cold stone floor inside the dusty, darkened chamber.
Amelia supports a wounded Christina, who blames the lack of maintenance for the sudden structural collapse.
Amelia's boot splashes into rising water as she looks down in realization of the mounting danger.
A massive wall of water rushes toward them, prompting Amelia to scream for Alfred as it hits.
Alfred stands frozen in terror as the sound of the structural collapse echoes from the cavern.
Alfred and the Duke react with horror to the sound of Amelia's scream and the cave's destruction. A hand trembles in the darkness as Amelia slowly begins to regain consciousness after the flood.
Waking up dazed and exhausted, Amelia looks around the dark room and wonders what just happened.
Amelia recalls the wall breaking and realizes she has been unconscious for quite some time. Gasping in alarm, Amelia spots the injured Christina lying motionless on the ground nearby in the dark. Amelia lifts Christina, who weakly expresses relief at the human queen's safety despite her own visible wounds. A boot splashes into a puddle as Christina insists they prioritize reaching the cavern's center room. Amelia helps the limping Christina toward an opening where a mysterious, glowing light shines from within.
They discover the purple pyroxene stone glowing brilliantly inside a glass sphere atop a stone pedestal.
Amelia notes with awe that the glowing stone shares the exact same purple color as Alfred's eyes. A close-up reveals Amelia's intense and determined gaze as she focuses on the final objective. Christina slumps against the wall in pain, leaving a frantic Amelia wondering how to help her companion. Christina points toward the stone, instructing Amelia to take it and trigger the exit for them both. Christina notes the exit should open upon the stone's retrieval, but Amelia refuses to act alone. Christina points out the crown is within reach, but Amelia rejects the idea of winning this way. Amelia reflects on all the kindness she has received, acknowledging she never could have survived alone. Amelia thinks back to the final test of crossing the chasm and what it truly meant. Standing before the exit, Amelia concludes that joining hands was the only true way to succeed. The two parallel bridges span the abyss, symbolizing the cooperative nature required to pass the trial. Christina asks if one is willing to help another, regardless of birth, as Amelia reaches out. Squeezing Christina's hand, Amelia finally understands the true meaning of leadership and the royal trial's message. Christina acknowledges Amelia's suitability as queen while privately commending Alfred for his choice. Following the collapse, Christina slumps against Amelia, who supports her wounded and weary companion. Panicked by the severity of the situation, Amelia cries out for the injured Lady Christina. Amelia gazes at the rising water, torn between seeking help and remaining with her friend.
Beads of sweat roll down Amelia's face as she struggles to find a way out.
Overwhelmed by helplessness, Amelia weeps and desperately calls out for Alfred to save them. Driven by a sudden burst of resolve, Amelia realizes she must take immediate action. Tears stream down Amelia's cheeks as she prepares to use every resource at her disposal.
Amelia gasps in surprise upon discovering an unexpected object tucked away in her pocket.
Recalling Alfred's promise of protection, Amelia holds the whistle he gave her for emergencies. With a determined breath, Amelia blows into the ornate silver whistle to summon her husband.
A heavy silence permeates the chamber as Amelia waits for any sign of a rescue.
Amelia's expression shifts to pure terror when the whistle produces no audible sound at all.
A sudden cracking sound behind her causes Amelia to spin around in high alert alarm.
Stones continue to rain from the ceiling as the water levels threaten the trial's centerpiece. Amelia shields Christina from the debris, her name being shouted from above as safety approaches.
Alfred's foot crashes through the stone ceiling as Amelia weeps with intense relief at his arrival.
Alfred pulls Amelia into a fierce, protective embrace as the terrifying ordeal finally comes to an end. Alfred explains the reservoir failure while checking if the two women are unharmed after the flood. Christina is carried out on a stretcher as Amelia remains shaken by the near tragedy.
Touched by his arrival, Amelia asks how Alfred managed to locate her deep within the cave.
Alfred reveals the whistle's secret power while affectionately nuzzling Amelia, who thanks him with joy.
Duke Sena Louise immediately demands to know the final status of the sacred pyroxene trial stone.
Christina confirms Amelia's success, conceding the crown and recalling Alfred's request for her to help. Alfred recalls the previous night, asking Christina to guide Amelia through the challenges of the trial. Christina playfully teases the king for asking such a favor from his own former fiancé. Alfred explains that the queen's roses bloomed only for Amelia, shocking the duke and local nobles. The duke and his companions kneel, formally asking for the new queen's forgiveness for their doubts. Flustered by the sudden display of subservience, Amelia urges the nobles to stand back up. Christina admits that she prefers her freedom over the restrictive and stuffy role of a queen. Duke Sena Louise stands alongside Alfred, while the nobles acknowledge the shifting power in the kingdom.
Christina declares her intent to serve as duchess, causing a stir among the traditionalist noble elders.
In a garden setting, Alfred takes Amelia's hand and pledges his eternal service to her. Amelia processes the magnitude of the moment, realizing she has truly overcome the legendary royal trial.
Surrounded by cheering crowds and falling confetti, Alfred officially proclaims Amelia as his rightful queen.
Whispers erupt among the onlookers as Christina reacts with visible alarm to a sudden revelation. Alfred lifts Amelia into the air while an unseen threat prompts a look of pure shock.
The title card announces the conclusion of the trial and the start of Chapter 31.
Night falls over the Grand Royal Palace, where a serious discussion is about to take place.
Alfred the Duke and another noble sit at a table for an urgent late-night meeting. Amelia senses the gravity of the atmosphere, fearing that they are about to receive grave news. Alfred questions the Duke regarding the certainty that his brother Gilbard orchestrated the recent attack.
Amelia gasps in shock at the mention of the king's mysterious and dangerous missing sibling.
A portrait reveals the likeness of Gilbard, the brother who vanished years ago under dark circumstances.
Christina warns that the city is now a target, prompting her to urge Alfred for transparency. Alfred takes a deep, steadying breath as he prepares to reveal his family's darkest secrets. Turning toward his wife, Alfred asks if she is prepared to hear the full, painful history. Amelia offers a small, supportive nod to confirm her readiness to face the truth together. Alfred begins his story by recounting the events that transpired during his own childhood years. A flashback shows the palace towers as servants search for the young and elusive Prince Alfred.
Scaling the castle wall, a 7-year-old Alfred panics at the thought of being taught.
A maid pulls Alfred back inside, scolding him for repeatedly trying to leave the castle. An ornate frame explains that the first forbidden area was outside the castle grounds. During lessons, young Alfred demands to know why he is not allowed to go out. Pouting over a book, the boy laments his ignorance of the kingdom he must rule.
Alfred chases a servant, questioning why his father has decided he must remain confined.
Alfred reflects on the frustration of never receiving a proper answer from anyone he asked. Stomping down a hallway, the boy fumes over the collective silence regarding his restricted life. One day, young Alfred decides to sneak through the garden bushes toward a new destination. In an act of defiance, the young prince heads toward the forbidden North Tower. Standing at the base, the young boy stares up at the vine-covered stone tower. With a heavy creak, young Alfred pushes open the massive doors to the mysterious tower. The interior is shrouded in silence as a grand staircase winds up toward the top. A close-up shows young Alfred gulping nervously as he prepares to face the unknown. Every step on the floorboards produces a loud creak as the boy begins his ascent. Alfred tries to convince himself the tower is normal and questions the secrecy surrounding it.
A close-up shows a wolf ear twitching as Alfred detects a sound from above.
Heavy footsteps echo through the stairwell as Alfred continues his solitary climb toward the top. Panting from the physical exertion, the exhausted boy finally reaches the very top landing.
A close-up of a glowing purple eye reflects the boy's sudden and intense shock.
Young Alfred stares in disbelief, wondering why there is a prison cell in this tower. Approaching the bars, Alfred is suddenly knocked back as a spear is thrust through him. From the darkness of the cell, a scarred prisoner with glowing eyes watches the boy. Gasps escape the boy as he realizes the prisoner's purple eyes prove royal lineage.
Lunging forward, the prisoner grabs Alfred and declares he will be the one to rule.
A sharp slap sounds as a hand is violently knocked away during the terrifying encounter.
Panicked, young Alfred flees the North Tower, his mind racing with questions about the prisoner.
Alfred bursts into his mother's chamber, crying out for her in a state of distress.
Resting in bed, Alfred's mother is startled by her son's sudden and tearful late-night arrival.
Sobbing, the boy admits he believed his brother had died fighting against the humans.
The boy cries into his mother's lap as she looks down with a grim expression. In the present, Amelia recalls rumors of a brother who was exiled or lost rights. Following that night, Alfred's mother began teaching him about his supposed family sin. A flashback shows a pup-sized Alfred being held up joyfully during a happier time. 16-year-old Gilbert holds 3-year-old Alfred, caring for him deeply despite having different mothers. The narrative explains that certain nobles conspired to remove the popular Gilbert from the succession. Oblivious to the politics, young Alfred viewed Gilbert only as a kind and loving brother. A crown floats above a reaching hand as the story details Gilbert's sudden transformation. Following his mother's death and his disqualification for the throne, Gilbert joined a dangerous crowd. Just before the heir announcement, Gilbert attacked Alfred and left him wounded near a village. Alfred explains that beastkin morph into upright forms at age 5 to be considered heirs. Amelia gasps as Alfred reveals Gilbert's plan was to have him captured by humans.
Gilbert led a group of beastkin to attack the very human village where Alfred lay.
Using the pretense of Alfred's death, Gilbert sought to incite a war and reclaim power. Gilbert was eventually imprisoned for his crimes but has since escaped to find his brother. Trembling, Amelia asks if the attacked village was hers, and Alfred solemnly confirms it.
Amelia is paralyzed by the realization that Alfred's brother led the slaughter of her people.
A flashback shows a massive beastkin howling amidst the flames of the burning human village. Amelia vividly recalls her mother being killed by the beastkin as her heart hammers. Alfred pulls a weeping Amelia into a tight embrace, offering a profound and tearful apology. A glowing background highlights the sentiment that His Highness is an exceptionally kind soul.
Amelia weeps during Alfred's embrace, realizing he has cared for her this entire time.
Amelia reflects on Alfred's past kindness toward his brother as memories of them together surface. Squeezing Alfred's garment, Amelia asks him to continue sharing the rest of his painful history. In a flashback, Gilbert carries pup-sized Alfred into the woods, claiming they are going somewhere good. Standing on a ledge, the young prince marvels at his first view of the human kingdom. Gilbert looms over his brother with glowing eyes, claiming his actions stem from Alfred's love. A close-up of Alfred's eye captures his sudden and paralyzing confusion at his brother's words. Gilbert kicks Alfred off the cliff, telling him to die for the sake of his brother. Alfred explains he survived the fall thanks to tree branches and a kind human villager. An oppressive darkness represents the memory loss Alfred suffered immediately following his traumatic fall. Beneath the trees, a group of beastskin soldiers prepares to launch their attack at sundown. A wolf soldier is startled to find the missing Prince Alfred appearing from the forest. Carrying a purple flower in his mouth, the pup-sized Alfred steps out from the greenery. The soldier expresses profound relief that the young prince has been found alive and safe. Holding the flower, Alfred urgently tells the soldier that they must stop the impending war. A close-up of a glowing purple eye reflects the intense malice of the orchestrator. A blood-red splash serves as the backdrop for a brutal command to slaughter everyone. Alfred recalls how he failed to stop his brother as Gilbert howled amidst the flames. The former Beast King reacts with visible horror to the false news of Alfred's death. Gilbert comforts his grieving father, promising to absolve his turmoil once he assumes the throne. Coveting the crown, Gilbert reveals his true, wicked intentions to seize power for himself. A sudden thud startles Gilbert, who demands to know how someone could still be there. A tearful and battered Alfred stands at the door, revealing the truth of his survival. Sobbing uncontrollably, the young prince reveals that Gilbert was the one who tried to kill him. Alfred's eye wobbles with tears as he questions why his own brother would betray him. A swirling, dark energy symbolizes the fractured memories and hidden truths within the royal family. Christina explains that Alfred lost his memories from shock while adults hid Gilbert's betrayal from him. Cracked portraits symbolize the severed relations and the Cold War between the human and wolf kingdoms. Alfred explains that his missing memories finally returned upon finding his brother in the North Tower. Alfred concludes that his own existence was the catalyst that twisted his brother's heart. Amelia squeezes Alfred's hand and firmly insists that none of these tragedies were his fault. Christina notes that Alfred's resolve to help the tragedy's victims led to their own formal engagement. Young Christina and young Alfred meet for the first time, with Alfred immediately requesting a favor. Bowing deeply, the young prince asks to call off their engagement on the day they meet. Christina asks for a reason, and Alfred reveals he already has someone very dear to him. A flashback shows Alfred watching a human girl through bars, vowing to cherish her forever.
Amelia is devastated, believing she was merely a substitute for someone Alfred truly loved.
Christina snickers as she reveals that the person Alfred was talking about was actually Amelia. Amelia's eyes widen in absolute shock as she processes the revelation about Alfred's true feelings. Alfred explains that mending relations between their two kingdoms was his first priority upon becoming king. Amelia remains speechless, her mouth agape as the pieces of their shared past fall into place. Alfred strokes Amelia's hair, apologizing for the long delay in rescuing her from her prison. Flashbacks show young Amelia nursing the wolf pup and showering him with genuine love and affection. The wolf pup plays joyfully in a field of flowers with the girl who saved him. Alfred pulls Amelia close and confesses that he has loved her ever since those childhood days. Amelia's overwhelmed, finally realizing that the beastkin child she once cared for was Alfred. Alfred calls Amelia his goddess and expresses his profound relief at finally being reunited with her. A close-up shows Amelia's tearful eyes as Alfred pledges his entire life to her. Surrounded by flowers, Alfred asks Amelia to be his queen, and she tearfully accepts his proposal. A gray-furred wolf soldier in a suit sprints down the castle hallway while breathing heavily. Reaching his destination, the breathless wolf soldier announces that they have an urgent problem to address.
The wolf soldier presents a worn parchment, revealing a bounty has been placed on Amelia.
Amelia trembles in terror as she looks at the official bounty poster offering a massive reward. Alfred pulls a crying Amelia close and promises to protect her by any means necessary. Alfred narrows his eyes in suspicion, wondering who could have orchestrated the threat against his wife. At the royal capital, a blonde fox maid named Hannah shouts a fierce and absolute refusal. Amelia clutches a bouquet of flowers while expressing her deep trust in everyone within the castle. Hannah sternly forbids Amelia from leaving the grounds until after the kingdom's founding ceremony has concluded. Colorful banners and confetti fill the streets as the city prepares for the grand founding festival. Amelia looks down sadly, feeling guilty about the bounty and the mounting preparations for the king. Amelia decides to bring flowers to Alfred, worrying that he must be exhausted from his duties. Amelia thanks the blonde maid for agreeing to keep her small secret hidden from the stern Hadda. A massive exclamation of shock appears over a backdrop of roses as a revelation is made. Amelia is visibly flustered as she questions the news that a personal guard is being assigned. Alfred maintains a serious expression while confirming that the decision to assign a guard is final. Amelia worries that she is becoming a nuisance to Alfred once again during this stressful time. A pair of gloved hands suddenly land on Amelia's shoulders, causing her to flinch in total surprise. A light-haired wolf leans in to tease Amelia, calling her Alfred's first love while playfully touching her face. A gloved hand roughly grabs the light-haired wolf by the snout to stop his teasing comments. Alfred tells the wolf to step away from Amelia, while the muzzled captain continues to mumble jokes. Alfred introduces the newcomer as Oliver Eskeltar, the captain of the Royal Guard, who greets Amelia formally. Oliver boasts about his accomplishments despite Alfred pointing out his history of debauchery and causing his mother grief. Amelia offers a warm and gentle laugh, expressing her hope that they will all get along well. Amelia turns her head in curiosity as she hears a sudden whisper coming from behind her. Oliver leans in close to whisper and offer to tell Amelia stories about Alfred's childhood years. Amelia reacts with wide-eyed excitement and a joyful squeal, eagerly accepting the offer to hear the stories. Alfred drags the mischievous Oliver away by the collar, ordering him to stay away from his wife. Amelia watches the interaction with a smile, happy to see that Alfred has such a close friend. Alfred notes that while Oliver can be difficult, his skills as a guard are undeniably exceptional. Alfred explains Oliver's assignment as her bodyguard, though Amelia insists the guards should focus on him instead. Alfred gently touches Amelia's face, explaining that protecting her is essential for his own continued survival. Surrounded by butterflies and flowers, Alfred expresses his desire to be the only person reflected in her eyes. A close-up captures Amelia's blushing face as she looks up at her husband with deep affection. Amelia leans into Alfred, promising that her entire being belongs to him and his heart's desires. Alfred holds Amelia in a tender embrace, looking down at her with a soft and loving expression. Oliver interrupts the romantic moment, prompting a blushing Amelia to apologize and Alfred to call him rude. A close-up shows Oliver watching the couple with a knowing and slightly mischievous smirk on his face. Standing among bright flowers, Amelia declares her newfound resolve to live her life for the king's sake. The scene shifts to the garden where Oliver loudly complains about Alfred leaving him behind once again. Oliver continues his light-hearted complaints to Amelia, who laughs while they sit together among the white lilies.
Oliver recalls being punished in the past for helping Alfred sneak out of the castle for a bit.
Oliver teases that Hannah's anger was so intense she practically had demonic horns coming out of her head.
Amelia giggles at Oliver's story, noting that he must have done something quite bad to earn such punishment. Oliver stares at Amelia with a calm and steady expression, his playful demeanor momentarily shifting to seriousness. Oliver leans his chin on his hand and directly asks Amelia if she truly loves Alfred. Amelia is caught completely off guard by the personal question, blushing intensely and struggling to respond. Oliver leans in close to the flustered girl and whispers a compliment about how cute she is. Looming over Amelia amidst falling petals, Oliver provocatively asks if she wants to do something naughty with him. The chapter ends with a close-up of Oliver's mischievous smirk as he repeats his bold and surprising proposal. The brown-haired girl loosens her dress to enter the bath while the maid watches. She relaxes in the warm, rose-filled water hidden behind heavy red curtains. The girl cups the fragrant water and morning petals in her hands. She sighs and admits that the warm bath feels surprisingly good for her body. Diving beneath the surface, the girl allows the water to fully envelop her. Underwater, she reflects on how strange it is that the Beastkin nation feels peaceful. Emerging from the water with a gasp, she wipes the droplets from her eyes. While wringing her hair, she hears a sudden noise and wonders what it was. Alert and terrified, she realizes Alfred has arrived as he stands in the doorway. She fears his hunger. The maid tries to stop him from entering the room. Reaching for a towel, the girl's heart hammers against her ribs in pure panic. Alfred steps forward and asks if she has properly warmed up in the bath. He looks down with a calm expression, questioning why she is so deeply troubled. Alfred bows his head, apologizing for his lack of decorum as a furred beastkin. He raises a clawed hand, insisting she stay in the bath to avoid the cold. A dangerous glint reflects off the sharp tips of Alfred's long black claws. Traumatic visions of blood and violence flash through her mind as her heartbeat quickens. Trembling with intense fear, she stares at the massive claws looming before her. Alfred watches her silently, his purple eyes fixed on her shaking form. A close-up highlights the intimidating size and sharpness of the Beast King's hand. Alfred asks if she fears his claws as she recalls her village birding. Overwhelmed by terror and memory, the brown-haired girl collapses onto the floor. She explains her mother died after being shredded by the claws of a beastkin. Alfred acknowledges her tragic confession with a somber and understanding quietness. Alfred kneels and grips his wrist, his gaze dropping to the floor in contemplation. A sharp silver dagger glints in the light as Alfred produces the weapon. The girl's eyes widen in horror as she trembles at the sight of the blade. The wolfmaid is visibly distressed, questioning if the king truly intends to proceed. Alfred raises the dagger high above his head with a determined, cold expression. Paralyzed by shock, the girl watches the king prepare to strike downward. Clinging to her towel, she screams no and squeezes her eyes shut in despair. The descending dagger is reflected in her tearful emerald green eye as she gasps. Alfred swings the blade down with a brilliant flash of light amidst thorny vines. A dark splatter fills the scene as she thinks he is going to kill her. She continues to weep and cling to her towel, waiting for the final blow. Peeking out, she realizes she is unharmed, while the maid gasps in total shock. Sharp black claw fragments fall through the air and scatter onto the ground. The girl tentatively speaks to Alfred as she tries to understand what just happened. Alfred holds the dagger over his severed claws, confirming he cut them for her. The brown-haired girl is left in a state of absolute, wordless confusion. Alfred looks away somberly while holding the dagger he used for his sacrifice. She gulps and flinches, finally processing the weight of the king's self-inflicted action. The wolf maid looks on with a soft smile as the tension finally breaks. The maid drapes a robe over her, noting Alfred has never done this before. The maid explains that Alfred discarded his claws for her, causing the girl's shock. Still dazed, the brown-haired girl asks about the true meaning of his actions. Narrated text inside a frame declares that a beastkin's claws are their absolute pride. Further text explains claws signify strength, nobility, and the core identity of a beastkin. Her eyes widen as she questions if the claws are truly that significant to him. Turning away, she wonders why he would sacrifice his pride for a human criminal. Amelia blushes intensely while looking up at the man standing closely before her. Oliver places a finger to his lips, playfully silencing the shocked woman during their encounter. Oliver points out that she is a poor liar as she watches him with a smile. A close-up shows the beastkin's muzzle as a puff of breath escapes in the air. Oliver admits he was seen through while the blonde maid giggles in the background. Grumbling, Hannah hoists a large wooden tub over her head with a menacing expression. Surrounded by white flowers, Oliver asks how she managed to detect his lie so easily. From behind, Amelia's long braid is visible as she faces the seated captain of the guard. Amelia smiles brightly, explaining her intuition stems from the absolute trust the king has in him.
Hannah and Oliver are both caught off guard by the woman's sincere and heartfelt declaration. A close-up of Oliver's blue eye shows him reflecting on the weight of her words.
Stretching his arms, Oliver concedes that while he is better at combat, Alfred wins with women.
Oliver recalls Alfred's childhood vow to become a great king specifically to save his beloved. Listening intently, Amelia is surprised when Oliver suggests she can attend the festival if escorted. The narrative explains the upcoming founding festival will draw crowds from across all neighboring kingdoms. The scene shifts as a question arises regarding the specific nature of the royal event.
A royal official reviews documents with Amelia, explaining the scheduled start of the founding ceremony.
Illustrative panels detail the prayers night where the royal couple offers prayers to the goddess. The official describes the sunset vigil and the hour-long carriage journey required to reach the hall.
Alfred expresses grave concern about the threat of bounty hunters lurking while the citizens are home.
Amelia objects firmly to the idea of canceling the festival, emphasizing the people's high expectations. Touched by her conviction, Alfred pledges to keep her safe amidst a shower of petals. Alfred places a pocket watch in Amelia's hands, tasking her with keeping track of the time. Sharing a determined look, the royal couple vows to make the founding festival a total success. Amelia reflects on her deep desire for the event to succeed for the sake of everyone. At 7 p.m. on the ceremony day, two hooded figures approach a waiting royal carriage. As the carriage departs, shadowed beastkin watch with a sinister grin from behind a wall. An overhead view shows the royal carriage traveling down a path flanked by dense green trees. Ambushers burst from the foliage, bringing the carriage to a sudden and violent wrestling halt. A wolf bounty hunter lunges forward, claiming the reward on the human's head as his own. A clawed hand reaches for the carriage door with a fierce growl of greedy anticipation. A heavy boot strikes the bounty hunter's face, sending a spray of blood into the air. A hooded figure steps out of the carriage, expressing total disgust for the filthy bounty hunters. Drawing a sword, the hooded defender warns the surrounding beastkin to stay out of the way.
With a rapid movement, the cloaked warrior swings the blade to fend off the encircling attackers. The bounty hunters are cut down in a spray of blood as the defender stands firm.
The hidden warrior exhales a long sigh after the brief and one-sided skirmish concludes.
Removing the hood, Oliver reveals his face while adjusting his position after the intense combat. Standing over the fallen, Oliver wonders if the actual royal couple is currently doing all right. A shocked bounty hunter questions the defender's humanity before being lunched out with a laugh. Oliver dispatches the remaining hunters with ease, noting how close the encounter actually felt. The blonde maid removes her hood to thank Oliver once the threat has been neutralized. Oliver and Hannah stand over the defeated beastkin, confirming their role as the successful decoys.
Oliver playfully suggests they are the shadow guards, while the maid dismisses his boastful nature.
Looking into the distance, the two guards hope that Alfred and Amelia reach their destination safely.
Elsewhere in the city, Alfred and Amelia travel on foot while wearing dark, inconspicuous cloaks.
Amelia checks the pocket watch, noting the decoy plan worked, but time is running short. Alfred pulls Amelia along a narrow alleyway, urging her to hurry as the watch ticks.
A sudden, large hand grabs Amelia's shoulder from the darkness, causing her to gasp in terror.
Amelia's eyes widen in absolute shock as a voice calls out her name from behind.
A hooded beastkin with a glowing purple eye grabs Amelia's shoulder as she gasps in terror. Hands reach out in a blurred blue-lit corridor as the chaotic and frightening situation unfolds. The blue-eyed beastkin curses his own reckless actions while peeking around a stone corner in frustration. Sprinting down the narrow alleyway, the beastkin carries Amelia over his shoulder as she remains motionless.
Startled, the blue-eyed beastkin turns around and discovers that Alfred has successfully tracked them down.
The beastkin is paralyzed with fear as the towering silhouette of Alfred looms over him menacingly.
Alfred roughly grabs the man by his cloak, demanding to know his name and true purpose.
Amelia is frozen in terror as Alfred's purple eyes glow with intense and threatening malice.
The blue-furred beastkin stares ahead with a worried expression, his ears flattened against his head. Alfred pins the man to a wall, accusing him of being a greedy bounty hunter. Amelia is heartbroken by the violence, while the captive beastkin begs for a chance to explain. A large beastkin woman demands to know if her husband has been rude to the royals. Sweating, the blue-furred man explains that he actually intended to help the royal couple escape. Alfred and Amelia exchange a look of utter confusion regarding the strange beastkin's sudden claim. The woman scolds her foolish husband before bowing deeply to apologize for his ridiculous behavior.
Alfred narrows his eyes and questions why the man thought kidnapping Amelia was considered helpful.
A helpful beastkin explains they were looking for the couple to show them a secret route.
Blushing with embarrassment, the man admits he got ahead of himself once the queen passed by.
Amelia is genuinely surprised, questioning why a beastkin would acknowledge a human as their queen.
The beastkin reflects on his father's teachings about humans being a weak and cowardly race.
Looking determined, the blue-furred beastkin admits he truly wants to understand humans much better. A close-up captures Amelia's luminous green eyes as she is touched by the man's sincerity. With a bright smile and a slight blush, Amelia offers her heartfelt thanks to the Beastkin. The orange-clad woman claps her hands and urges everyone to hurry toward the sacred hall. 2 hours remain until midnight as the group avoids bounty hunters lurking in the city. The helpful Beastkin leads Alfred and Amelia toward an ancient underground passage behind the wall. A group of Beastkin people bows respectfully, offering prayers for the royal couple's safety. Alfred and Amelia nod in gratitude as they prepare to enter the secret stone temple. Amelia's brown boots step rhythmically onto the stone stairs as the group begins their ascent.
A gust of wind echoes through the dark stone corridor as the pair continues on.
Taking a deep, shaky breath, Amelia gulps nervously while staring into the dark path ahead. Alfred reaches out to Amelia, promising that they can accomplish anything as long as they're together. Amelia blushes and takes Alfred's hand while flowers bloom in the background of her thoughts. Alfred explains that the ancient passages were once used to defend against sudden enemy attacks. Amelia suddenly trips on a loose stone, prompting a panicked shout of concern from Alfred. Falling forward, Amelia is caught in a heap of fabric as she tumbles toward the ground. Alfred rushes to her side and shouts a warning to be careful after the fall. Checking her over, Alfred asks if she is hurt while Amelia tries to regain her composure. Alfred expresses his relief that she is safe, while Amelia offers a small, reassuring smile. Alfred insists on checking her shoulder, though Amelia sheepishly claims the injury is not that bad. Pulling back her cloak, Alfred discovers a bleeding cut, and Amelia apologizes for causing him worry. Alfred suddenly leans in to lick the wound, explaining that he is simply disinfecting the injury.
A flustered Amelia trembles as Alfred continues to lick her shoulder amidst a backdrop of roses.
Laughing, Amelia accuses Alfred of teasing her, while he offers to finally dress the wound. Alfred admits he enjoys her company even now, leaving a blushing Amelia to feel quite overwhelmed. Hand in hand, the royal couple continues their long climb up the massive stone staircase. Alfred turns back to check on Amelia, asking if she is still holding up all right. Panting from the exertion, Amelia smiles brightly and declares they are almost at their destination. The rhythmic sound of footsteps echoes through the stairwell as the two move toward the light. Reaching the top landing, the exhausted pair stares ahead with determination as Alfred signals their arrival. Alfred and Amelia stand before the massive, ornate doors of the kingdom's sacred hall. The pair shares a meaningful glance and a silent nod before entering the cathedral. Reaching for the golden handles, they slowly push the heavy double doors open together. A bell tolls as a Beastkin woman notes the official start of the ceremony. Checking the pocket watch, Alfred notes they arrived just as the founding ceremony begins. Entering the hall, Amelia marvels at the majestic statue of the revered sun goddess. Alfred explains that the hall has hosted royal wedding ceremonies for many generations past. Amelia expresses her joy at being able to pray for the kingdom's future success. Alfred echoes her sentiment and invites Amelia to offer their shared prayers to the goddess. Kneeling together, the royal couple bows their heads in solemn prayer before the silent statue. Amelia prays for eternal peace and prosperity for the kingdom and its considerate ruler. A bright spark catches Amelia's eye as the goddess's jewel begins to glow intensely. The radiant pink jewel floats upward, bathed in a soft light amidst the sacred hall. Petals drift through the air as the magical jewel continues its gentle and radiant ascent. Startled, Amelia catches the glowing jewel in her hands as it descends toward her. The radiant pink jewel pulses with a warm light within Amelia's protective, gloved hands. Mesmerized by its brilliance, Amelia finds the glowing artifact to be truly breathtakingly beautiful. Alfred suggests the goddess has acknowledged them by answering their earnest and heartfelt prayers. Amelia gazes at the radiant jewel, marveling at the incredible miracles she currently holds. Alfred confirms that the jewel's appearance proves the goddess has truly acknowledged husband. Amelia offers her thanks to the goddess while vowing to keep the jewel very safe. Alfred thanks Amelia for her sincere prayers for the well-being of his beloved people. Amelia reflects on her initial fear of Beastkin and the hardships she once endured. Surrounded by roses and butterflies, Amelia recalls the prejudice she faced from various townspeople. Looking at Alfred, Amelia notes how much everything has changed thanks to his kindness. Amelia recalls the Beastkin man's desire to understand humans better after meeting her today. Wearing a crown of light, Amelia expresses her own desire to learn more too. Amelia thanks Alfred for showing her the beauty of the kingdom and its citizens. Alfred pulls Amelia into a tender embrace, marveling at the strength she has gained. A close-up shows Amelia's hand clenching Alfred's cloak as she leans into him. Embracing before the statue, Alfred reveals he has something very important to discuss. Surrounded by blue roses, Alfred proposes that they get married within this sacred hall. Alfred asks Amelia to be his queen forever, and she joyfully accepts his proposal. Alfred thanks Amelia while holding her face tenderly during their intimate, romantic moment. The couple shares a passionate kiss beneath the watchful eyes of the sun goddess.
Later, a carriage departs as Amelia expresses relief that the assassins are finally gone.
Alfred's expression turns serious as he prepares to reveal a heavy, long-hidden truth.
Amelia looks up in concern, questioning the important news her husband needs to share.
Alfred reveals the shocking truth that his brother was the one who placed the bounty. Amelia is paralyzed with terror, her heart racing as she processes the dark revelation. Alfred links his brother Gilbard to previous incidents like the fire and cave collapse. Alfred concludes that Gilbard orchestrated the tragedies as vengeance for losing the royal throne. Clenching his fist, Alfred admits he once blamed himself for his brother's twisted mindset. Shifting his gaze back to Amelia, Alfred declares he has finally discarded those guilty thoughts. The narrative emphasizes Alfred's newfound and absolute resolve to put an end to Gilbard's crimes. Alfred vows to capture Gilbard and make him answer for every one of his sins.
Amelia looks at her husband with deep affection, sensing his sincerity and heavy burden.
Alfred reaches out to Amelia, who leans into his chest for comfort and reassurance. Alfred acknowledges the terrifying experiences he has caused her while pulling her into a hug.
Alfred nuzzles Amelia's hair, expressing his deep regret for the hardships she has faced.
Amelia gazes at Alfred, expressing that her fear vanishes as long as His Highness is present.
Holding the radiant pink gem, Amelia notes the sun goddess is surely watching over her.
Alfred explains that the true love's jewel appears only when royal passion reaches its peak. The jewel splits to reveal 2 rings, leaving Amelia eager to see their final form.
Palace staff scramble frantically to prepare flower petals and drapes before the grand ceremony begins.
Observing the chaotic preparations, the royal couple agrees they should lend a hand to the staff.
Amelia walks through the quiet castle halls, her mind focused on a specific task.
Brightening with an idea, Amelia decides to head to the greenhouse to gather fresh roses.
Amelia imagines Alfred's delight, certain that he will love the roses she plans to pick.
Amelia carefully snips vibrant red and white roses, her focus entirely on her task.
A large, dark boot suddenly appears near the flower beds, signaling an unexpected intruder's presence.
Startled by a sudden noise, Amelia turns her head to see who has entered the greenhouse. A gray-furred beastskin with scarred eyes emerges, causing Amelia to gasp as she notices his purple eyes.
Sensing a different, darker aura, Amelia watches in horror as the mysterious wolf mocks her presence. The intruder mentions a secret greenhouse path as Amelia trembles, realizing she is facing Gilbard.
The scarred wolf is revealed as Gilbard, Alfred's brother, who watches Amelia with a sinister grin. Haunted by memories of fire and blood, Amelia recalls how her parents died because of him.
Gilbard addresses Amelia by name, his expression cold and predatory as he looks down at her.
Gilbert threatens her life while demanding a chat, leaving a terrified Amelia frozen in his grip.
Recalling Alfred's vow to stop him, Amelia realizes she must find the strength to resist.
Gilbard reflects on the kingdom's peace, while flashbacks show a tranquil village and happy beastkin children.
Crushing a rose, Gilbard venomously declares that the throne and the crown should have been his.
Through her tears, Amelia pleads with Gilbard to stop committing crimes against the king's peaceful reign. Gilbard laughs dismissively at the mention of his crimes, his eyes glowing with a dark intensity.
Gilbard blames Alfred for the tragedy, claiming that her parents would be alive if he were king.
A dark silhouette of Gilbert wearing a crown underscores his claim that Alfred is the criminal. Gilbert draws comparisons between their suffering, while Amelia shouts that his actions led to her imprisonment.
The pink jewel rolls across the stone floor after Amelia drops it in her heightened panic.
Gilbert offers to show Amelia how to protect Alfred after she declares her husband's immense importance.
Gilbert demands that Amelia team up with him, leaving the young woman paralyzed with absolute dread.
Oliver walks through the corridor whistling, completely unaware of the danger unfolding in the greenhouse. Startled, Oliver stops and turns around after hearing someone call his name from the hallway.
Hannah rushes toward Oliver, huffing from exhaustion as she delivers a piece of distressing news.
Distraught and sweating, Hannah reports that Lady Amelia has failed to return to her royal chambers.
Oliver dashes off in a panic while Hannah prays the queen hasn't encountered any serious trouble.
Regret fills Oliver as he curses himself for letting his guard down within the castle walls. The sun shines over the castle towers as a silent prayer is offered for the lady's safety.
The chapter title, Sacrifice to be the Beast King's Bride, appears over a dark blue background. Back in the garden, Gilbard looms over Amelia, his presence casting a long and terrifying shadow. Gilbert orders Amelia to convince Alfred to surrender the royal throne to him as a simple task.
Gilbert insists Alfred will listen to her, while a devastated Amelia gasps that she cannot comply.
Gilbert promises to spare them both from further harm if she successfully manipulates her husband's decision. A close-up of Amelia's trembling eye captures her utter shock at the villain's cruel and manipulative offer. Gilbert claims they can live in exile anywhere they wish once he has secured the kingdom's crown.
Reaching toward the flowers, Gilbert sinisterly warns her to imagine the consequences of a refusal.
Gilbert glares intensely, boasting that his loyal men will never lose a battle against the king's army. Gilbert's scarred face is shown in close-up as he watches Amelia with a smug, menacing expression. Amelia covers her mouth with her gloved hands, her eyes wide with overwhelming horror and disbelief.
Visions of fire and death haunt Amelia as she fears a repeat of the village massacre.
The chapter concludes with a haunting imagery of the past fire and the victims left behind. Gilbert looms over the terrified Amelia, his hand resting menacingly on her shoulder as he asserts dominance.
Gilbert leans down to mock Amelia's status as a mere human trying to rule a land of wolves.
Amelia admits her own perceived weakness before shouting her refusal to let Gilbert have his way.
Amelia stands firm against Gilbert, declaring that she will never entrust the kingdom to a person like him.
Gilbert laughs at Amelia's perceived foolishness while preparing his sharp claws to strike at her.
Terrified, Amelia stares at Gilbert's approaching claws as her heart begins to race with absolute fear.
Amelia closes her eyes tightly, bracing herself as a sudden shout interrupts the extremely tense greenhouse encounter.
An authoritative voice rings out through the hallway, demanding that the violent confrontation end immediately.
A loud clashing sound echoes as a sword intervenes, blocking Gilbert from reaching his intended target.
Oliver arrives in his red guard uniform, demanding to know what is happening to his lady.
Gilbert nonchalantly notes that he stayed a bit too long before turning away from the guard.
Oliver asks Amelia if she is all right, while Gilbert mockingly comments on the guard's loyalty to humans.
Gilbert dismisses Oliver, claiming that he has no business with anyone beneath the royal status.
With a sinister grin, Gilbert tosses the glowing pink jewel into the air toward the queen.
Caught off guard, Amelia catches the jewel but wonders if something is wrong with the artifact.
Amelia stares at the pink jewel in her gloved hands, feeling a sense of deep unease.
Gilbert holds up a jar of red seeds, presenting them as a final gift before departing. Amelia gasps as she realizes the seeds will explode when they are exposed to the direct sunlight. Gilbert smashes the glass jar against the floor while Oliver shouts a desperate warning to Amelia.
A massive explosion erupts as Oliver pulls Amelia into his arms to protect her from harm.
The greenhouse is consumed by fire, while Amelia's eye reflects the horror of the spreading flames. Gilbert stands in the center of the fire, triggering a traumatic memory of Amelia's parents dying.
Amelia trembles in Oliver's protective embrace as the heat of the fire becomes increasingly unbearable.
Gilbert walks into the flames while mockingly addressing the human queen as he makes his escape.
Oliver coughs from the thick smoke and tells Amelia they must leave the burning building immediately.
Overwhelmed by shock and smoke, Amelia gasps for air as her strength begins to fail her.
Oliver lifts the unconscious Amelia, cursing Gilbert's arrival while urging the lady to stay with him. Amelia suddenly wakes up in her bed with a gasp, sitting upright as she recovers.
A Beastkin maid is startled by the queen's sudden awakening and reacts with total surprise.
The wolf maid urgently calls out to Alfred and Oliver that the queen is finally awake. Alfred and Oliver rush to the bedside, both showing visible relief that Amelia has regained consciousness.
Amelia looks around in a daze, asking for an explanation of the events that transpired earlier.
A pocket watch shows that the festival is near, while Amelia recalls the image of Gilbert. Amelia gasps as the memories of the greenhouse fire and Gilbert's threats return to her.
Sitting up in bed, Amelia frantically demands to know where the villainous Gilbert has gone.
Alfred gently places his hand on Amelia's shoulder and urges her to stay in bed. Alfred looks down with a saddened expression, explaining that the queen fainted from the intense shock. A shadowy vision of Gilbert's scarred face looms behind Alfred as he talks to his wife.
Oliver stands behind the king, looking concerned as they attend to the recovering and distraught queen. Oliver explains that a search for Gilbert was launched immediately, though he remains at large.
Alfred squeezes Amelia's hands, expressing his deep regret for leaving her alone in such danger. Amelia warns Alfred that his brother plans to overthrow him and take control of the kingdom.
Amelia recalls how Gilbert demanded that she convince her husband to surrender the royal crown. Oliver asks if Gilbert used the explosive seeds simply because he was rejected by the queen.
The jar of red Flarga seeds is shown as a symbol of the recent greenhouse arson.
Oliver continues to question the motives behind Gilbert's destructive and petty behavior during the attack.
Amelia gasps in realization as the full scale of the garden's destruction comes to her mind. Alfred and Oliver look on as Amelia mourns the loss of the roses to the flames.
Amelia clenches the bedsheets tightly, deciding that she cannot allow her sadness to stop her.
Amelia looks at Alfred with a firm gaze, warning him of Gilbert's plan for a coup.
Pointing his sword at a fallen foe, Alfred explains that he is the true target, while a panicked Amelia shouts that the festival must be cancelled immediately. Looking through the window, Alfred insists the ceremony proceed because the citizens need to show their acceptance, and she previously expressed a desire to value their feelings.
Amelia looks distressed as she attempts to protest the king's dangerous and risky plan. Alfred stares out the window, declaring that if his enemy comes for him, it is for the better, as he intends to end the feud, leaving Amelia to whisper his title in concern. Alfred offers a reassuring look and swears that he will never allow any harm to come to his wife. While resting in bed, Amelia thinks about how much the king cares for her, but admits to herself that she still feels a deep sense of unease. Amidst drifting petals and banners, a festive crowd gathers as guards check for anything unusual before the celebration officially begins. A guard salutes and reports that everything is clear while commanding the other sentries to keep their eyes open and their guard up. The triumphant sound of trumpets fills the clear blue sky, signaling the official start of the ceremony. Petals fall as the royal couple waves to the cheering crowd, while the scarred Gilbard watches them from the line of guards. Raising his hand to the people, Alfred announces the ceremony has concluded successfully and that the sun goddess has granted them her blessing. As the crowd cheers, Alfred officially declares Amelia as his queen and tells her to show the people the proof of the goddess's blessing. Amelia raises the pink jewel high above her head and presents it to the awestruck crowd as the true love's jewel. A hidden red seed within the glowing pink jewel glints ominously under the bright sunlight. Amelia gasps as she recognizes the explosive seed just as an arrow whistles through the air and strikes the jewel. The pink jewel shatters into pieces as the red seed falls, catching the eyes of both the queen and her hidden attacker. Alfred dives to shield Amelia in his arms just as a massive explosion erupts at the entrance of the castle. Alfred groans in pain while a worried Amelia asks if he is all right following the sudden blast. Blood drips from a large tear in Alfred's blue cloak as Amelia watches in absolute horror. Amelia realizes with tears in her eyes that the king was only injured because he chose to protect her from the explosion. Hooded instigators in the crowd shout that the human woman tried to kill the king with a fake jewel, inciting a murmur that humans are scum. Red eyes glare through the darkness as the crowd continues to murmur and shout for the king. Cradling the unconscious and bleeding king, Amelia gazes at the angry crowd as the scene fades into a pool of blood.
A group of Beastkin citizens raises their fists in anger while shouting with a violent roar.
Amelia gasps as she is haunted by memories of her past imprisonment, while large black feathers begin to fall from the sky. Black feathers drift over the royal couple as the crowd looks up in confusion, wondering what is happening. A sinister grin spreads across Gilbard's face as he watches the chaos unfold from the shadows. Gilbard lands on the stone floor atop a giant black crow, leaving a terrified Amelia frozen in shock. Gilbert stands over the queen as the crowd questions his identity and royal lineage, and he mocks his brother for letting a human into his heart. Pointing a finger, Gilbard loudly declares that King Alfred has died, prompting a devastated Amelia to shout that it cannot be true. Gilbard poses dramatically and proclaims that it is no surprise that humans are a sly and cowardly race. Gilbert addresses the muttering crowd, declaring that as the king's older brother, he shall take the crown and fix the wrongs of the kingdom. An angry citizen agrees with the scarred wolf, shouting that they do not need any humans in the land of wolves. Crying out for her husband, Amelia desperately calls to him while the angry roars of the crowd echo around them. Visualizing her mother's death in the fire, Amelia wonders why this is happening again while a guard tries to reach her. A rock strikes Amelia as the crowd screams for the filthy human to leave their kingdom and be gone. Gilbert watches the chaotic and violent scene unfold with a wide, sinister grin of pure satisfaction. Footsteps echo as someone rushes up the stairs shouting for the violence to stop because the queen would never commit such a crime. Standing before the queen, a tearful Beastkin woman reveals to the others that the Highness once saved her child's life. A group of citizens clenches their fists, conflicted by the conflicting claims regarding the queen's character. Stepping forward, Gilbard dismisses the citizens as fools for choosing to defend a human just like his brother did. Gilbert glares at the people and questions if the claws of the land of wolves have dulled this much. The guards shiver in fear as Gilbard approaches and tells his unconscious brother not to worry. Gilbard looms over the queen and boasts that a strong leader like himself will set the kingdom back on the right path. Looking up with tears and a determined expression, Amelia loudly shouts that the villainous wolf is wrong. Recalling Alfred's image, Amelia notes that those who are truly strong are not the ones who use fear. Amelia looks at her husband and declares that true strength belongs to those who carry hearts of kindness like he does. Glaring at Gilbard, Amelia shouts that someone who preys on the fears of others to feed their own ego is anything but strong. Gilbert lets out a cold and dismissive chuckle at the queen's desperate and heartfelt defense. Gilbert mocks the queen, asking if Alfred is truly dead after trying to protect a measly human, leaving Amelia in despair. Amelia desperately begs for her husband to wake up as she cradles him. Alfred experiences a flashback of Amelia rescuing him from the darkness of his past. Alfred recalls how Amelia's kindness and bravery saved him when he was most vulnerable.
Amelia weeps over the unconscious king, confessing her love in a moment of despair. A single tear rolls down as Alfred's eyes begin to flicker open once more. Gilbert is startled by a sudden, powerful surge of energy radiating from the broken jewel. Gilbert expresses shock as he watches the pink jewel rise and begin to glow. The radiant jewel shatters to reveal 2 rings as the prophecy of passion is fulfilled.
Gilbert tries to incite the crowd by claiming the magical display is another human trick.
Amelia gasps in surprise as Alfred begins to regain consciousness and winces from his injuries. Alfred apologizes to his wife for the immense worry he caused her during the explosion.
Amelia nods tearfully as she is reassured that the crisis has finally passed them by.
Alfred stands up and clenches his fist, signaling his return to the fight for order. Alfred addresses the gathered citizens, asking them to witness the truth behind their human queen. Alfred explains that Amelia's compassion for the people transcends the boundaries between humans and beastkin.
Alfred urges the kingdom to identify their true enemy rather than blaming the innocent queen.
The citizens recall Amelia's hard work during past tragedies, confirming she would never harm them.
Alfred mocks his brother, noting that the trust Amelia built has completely ruined his plans.
The cheering crowd serves as definitive proof of the deep trust Amelia has earned from them.
Gilbert grits his teeth and calls out his brother's name in a fit of rage. Royal guards surround the defeated traitor, pointing their blades at him as he is captured.
The atmosphere shifts as white feathers drift through the air above the castle grounds. Amelia looks up in wonder as a giant white eagle descends toward the stone courtyard.
A pair of dark boots steps onto the pavement, marking the arrival of an ally.
Christina declares the traitor's defeat while her companion confirms the arrest of Gilbert's conspirators.
Gilbert is consumed by fury as he watches his bound men being led away into custody.
Alfred draws his sword and tells Gilbert to repent for the harm he has caused.
Gilbert stands motionless as the surrounding guards keep their spears leveled at the traitor.
Alfred prepares his blade for a final strike while reflecting on his brother's many sins.
Alfred raises his sword toward the sky, preparing to execute Gilbert before the entire kingdom.
Gilbert reflects on the heavy accusations against him as he stares at his brother's blade.
A close-up of Gilbert's face captures his somber mood as his coup officially ends.
Memories of a cheerful younger beastkin flash through the scene, highlighting a lost innocence.
Alfred swings his blade down toward Gilbert, intent on ending the threat once and for all.
Amelia suddenly leaps forward to stop the execution, causing Alfred to freeze in total shock.
Alfred questions his wife's interference as a flashback of her parents' death briefly reappears. Amelia admits she still carries heavy grudges but refuses to let them dictate her life.
Amelia declares that surrendering to hatred would only make her as villainous as Gilbert himself.
Alfred listens intently as his wife stands her ground against the cycle of brotherly vengeance.
Amelia explains that she chooses a happy future with Alfred over dwelling on past miseries.
Alfred chuckles and admits he just cannot win against his wife's heart and kindness.
Alfred turns back to Gilbert and asks if the traitor has any remaining misgivings. Amelia points out that Gilbert could have ruined their lives at any time he wanted.
Amelia reminds Gilbert that he had every opportunity to take her hostage during their encounter.
Amelia lists how easily Gilbert could have framed her for the murder of the king.
Amelia concludes that Gilbert refrained from these crimes because he had deep inner doubts.
Gilbert laughs dismissively, refusing to confirm the queen's observations about his inner conflict.
Alfred addresses his brother, stating that he can never forgive the harm he caused. Alfred commands Gilbert to discard his hatred and spend his life atoning for his sins. Gilbert mocks the king's mercy while Alfred calls out to his brother as he departs.
Gilbert reflects on his brotherly bond with Alfred as a rift separates their past and present.
A newborn's cries echo through the royal chambers as the Wolf King and Queen welcome their second son. The king calls his eldest son Gilbert to the bedside to meet the newest member of the family. Young Gilbert beams with joy and enthusiasm as he responds to his father's request to approach. The king introduces young Gilbert to his baby brother Alfred, fostering a sense of duty and affection. Young Gilbert is captivated by the tiny infant and asks his parents for permission to hold him.
Gilbert's mother warns him to be careful and hold his brother gently as she passes the baby.
Holding baby Alfred amidst a garden of flowers, Gilbert feels an immediate connection as his parents smile. A sense of pride fills young Gilbert as he realizes his new identity as an older brother. The king instructs Gilbert to protect his brother, and the boy happily vows to fulfill his duty. In the present, the scarred Gilbert somberly reflects that he truly meant that promise in his youth.
Gilbert wonders when his path diverged from Alfred's as they stand back to back as estranged adults.
Gilbert recounts falling victim to political machinations and hatred, culminating in the violent loss of his inheritance. A close-up captures Gilbert's somber expression as he finishes his internal monologue about his tragic past.
Gilbard faces his capture with a resigned and weary gaze, accepting the consequences of his failed coup.
Guards secure Gilbert's hands in wooden stocks, finalizing his transition from a royal traitor to a prisoner. Being led away to begin his atonement, Gilbard looks back and acknowledges Alfred one final time.
Gilbert muses that they might have remained close brothers if they hadn't been born into royal roles.
Alfred watches in silence as his brother is led away, his expression hidden as the chapter closes.
The traitorous wolf is marched away by spear-wielding guards, leaving the king to restore order.
Amelia calls out to Alfred as they walk through the gardens, her voice breaking the peaceful silence.
Alfred looks up at the bright sky, finding a moment of clarity and peace after the storm. The king and queen hold hands tightly, affirming their bond as they move toward a new future.
Alfred and Amelia walk together toward the light, ready to face the challenges of ruling their kingdom.
Peace returns to the land of wolves as the long-awaited day of the royal wedding ceremony finally arrives. Beastkin maids bustle about the castle, preparing for the celebration with excitement and various wedding supplies.
Beautiful white wedding dresses hang ready for the bride, surrounded by vibrant red roses and white lilies.
Oliver stands guard outside the queen's chambers, fulfilling his duty as the wedding preparations continue inside. An elegant boot steps onto the carpet as an unexpected guest arrives at the queen's dressing room.
Oliver's eyes widen in absolute surprise as he recognizes the distinguished wolf standing before him at the door.
A white-furred wolf from the Senna Louise family arrives carrying a massive bouquet of vibrant blue roses. The white wolf knocks on the door, expressing a desire to present a gift to the human bride.
Amelia greets Lady Christina with a bright smile, delighted by her friend's presence on her big day.
Lady Christina kneels and presents the blue roses, while a touched Amelia expresses her deep gratitude.
Christina insists that she is the one who should be thankful to Amelia for changing her life. Christina explains that Amelia's influence ended her forced engagement and allowed her to claim her family's leadership. Displaying a royal crest, Christina announces she has secured her father's blessing to inherit the duchy. Amelia joyfully congratulates her friend, celebrating Christina's new independence and the bright future ahead. Taking Amelia's hand, Christina notes that the human queen possesses a mysterious and inspiring power. Christina explains that seeing Amelia's hard work motivates everyone in the kingdom to strive for their best. With a playful wink, Christina reaffirms her support and admiration for the queen's character and strength.
Overwhelmed by Christina's heartfelt words, Amelia begins to cry, tears of pure happiness and relief.
The maids playfully hug Amelia while Oliver notes that Alfred was wise to choose such a queen. The Beastkin maids push the men out of the room, insisting they must finish dressing the queen.
Oliver greets Alfred in the corridor, where the king stands dressed in a sharp white wedding suit.
Oliver attempts to stop the king from entering, explaining that the maids are still preparing the bride.
Alfred ignores the warning and barges in, asking Amelia to help him pick out a necktie color.
Alfred is struck speechless by Amelia's beauty in her gown, his tail wagging furiously in pure adoration. The maids scold Alfred for his rudeness and order him to wait outside until the bride is ready. Alfred sheepishly apologizes for his intrusion, while Amelia smiles at her husband's adorable and clumsy eagerness. Alfred asks Amelia to meet him at the greenhouse for a private conversation later that day. Amelia questions the location, confused by the sudden invitation to the site of the recent tragedy. Recalling the arson, Amelia notes that the greenhouse has remained closed ever since the fire occurred.
Alfred's clawed hand grips a rose, symbolizing strength that is unfortunately used for harm.
A sudden flash reveals a traumatic memory of a woman being brutally slashed by claws. The wolf-maid Hannah gently explains that Alfred severed his claws out of consideration for her. The brown-haired girl stares in utter shock, unable to believe the king's extreme sacrifice. Looking at Hannah, the girl wonders why Alfred would go so far for someone like her. A frame displays the silver dagger alongside the severed fragments of the king's prideful claws. Alfred lets out a weary sigh while putting away the weapon used for his self-mutilation. The girl lets out a startled sound as the Beast King turns his attention back to her. Alfred turns fully toward her, causing the girl to flinch instinctively at his massive presence. Surrounded by rose petals, Alfred asks if his hand is now less frightening for her to behold. A close-up reveals the king's hand, now devoid of the sharp claws that once terrified her. The girl realizes her fear was misplaced and internally blames herself for doubting the king's kindness.
She flinches as Alfred's hand reaches out, yet she remains rooted in place, staring at him.
Alfred looks down at her with a somber, silent intensity that makes the girl's breath catch. Memories of her mother's death resurface, contrasting the current peace with her village's violent past. Looming text reinforces the long-standing belief that all beastkin are entities meant to be feared. Alfred extends his clawless hand toward the girl in a gesture of unexpected and quiet vulnerability. His hand moves closer to her face as she hesitates, caught between terror and newfound curiosity. Alfred gently caresses her cheek, leading her to realize that he may not be so fearsome. Alfred offers a small smirk while advising her that she doesn't need to force herself.
Alfred promises to take his time teaching her that his kind are not the monsters she imagines.
Overwhelmed by his gentleness, the brown-haired girl averts her gaze and blushes in silent confusion.
Alfred smirks and warns her not to catch a cold if she remains in the bath. The girl blinks in surprise, caught off guard by the king's playful and casual remark.
Her eyes widen in a sudden realization as the weight of the situation hits her again.
Panicking, the girl dives behind a red curtain to hide herself from the king's intense gaze. Alfred reminds the blushing girl that he is her husband while looking at her through the curtain. Alfred approaches the curtain, telling her there is no reason to be shy. She refuses.
Squeezing her eyes shut, the girl screams for the Beast King to stay away from her. Alfred looks visibly startled and slightly annoyed, noting that the girl is being far too loud. Hannah interjects, explaining that grooming habits among Beastkin families are quite different from those of humans. Hannah claps her hands firmly, declaring that the interaction has gone on long enough for today.
Ignoring his protests, Hannah pushes Alfred toward the exit while he calls out her name. The heavy bathroom door slams shut, leaving the king standing alone in the hallway outside. Alfred stands in the corridor, sweating and looking perplexed by the maid's sudden, forceful dismissal.
Hannah turns back to the girl with a smile, encouraging her to finish her rose bath. Still startled by the sudden change in atmosphere, the girl nervously agrees to finish her soak. Hannah provides detailed instructions on how to use a scented pouch to clean her delicate skin.
As night falls over the castle, a candelabra illuminates the quiet and grand royal bedroom.
Tucked into the luxurious bed, the girl lies awake and stares thoughtfully at the ceiling.
She reflects on her transition from a prison cell to the home of a feared beastkin.
A peaceful smile touches her lips as she remembers the kindness shown to her that day. A vision of Alfred's gentle expression lingers in her mind as she drifts toward sleep.
She recalls the sight of his clawless hand, a permanent testament to his consideration for her.
A sudden sound of a step causes the girl's eye to snap open in the darkness.
Jolting upright in bed, the girl asks what is happening as she hears movement nearby. Her heart begins to hammer against her ribs, the sound of her pulse echoing through her.
The sound of slow, deliberate footsteps approaching her room fills the silent and dark hallway.
In the shadows, two beastkin servants whisper together with their sharp teeth visible in the gloom.
The brown-haired girl gasps in terror, her face pale as the nightmare seems to be starting.
Internal monologue about a sudden realization within the shadowy red void.
She realizes she is in a beastkin castle while spectral hands close in. A dress shoe taps rhythmically against the dark floor of the quiet hallway.
Her heart pounds as she realizes the mysterious footsteps have stopped at her door. Shaking with fear, the girl nervously asks who is standing outside her bedroom.
The sound of heavy footsteps echoes past the ornate door adorned with thorny roses.
Flashbacks of her mother's death convince her she will be the next victim.
Alfred and Hannah share a moment of quiet warmth amidst the girl's rising paranoia.
She resolves to escape under the cover of darkness as other beastkin whisper nearby. Tucked under the blankets, she wonders why they are still waiting outside her door. The girl weeps and begs for the entities to leave her alone in the darkness.
Her eyes widen in panic as the sound of footsteps continues just outside the room.
Alfred's wolf ears twitch as he walks down the dimly lit corridor of his castle.
Silence falls over the hallway, heightening the tension as she waits for any movement. Peeking from behind the heavy blue curtains, she realizes the presence outside has finally vanished. A wave of relief washes over her as she believes she is finally alone. She tries to convince herself she is safe for the day as she rolls over. Feathers fall through the night as she worries about surviving the coming days without sleep. Hannah leads the girl through the castle, mentioning fresh milk is ready for breakfast.
Exhaustion takes its toll on the girl, who has not slept for 5 consecutive nights.
Hannah notices the girl looks unwell and asks if everything is all right with her. Overcome by dizziness, the girl wobbles and collapses as the wolf maid calls out.
The girl slowly opens her emerald eyes while groaning in a state of semi-consciousness.
Alfred asks how she feels. She apologizes, but he tells her to lie back down.
Looming over the bed, Alfred asks the girl to explain what happened to her. The brown-haired girl hesitates, struggling to find the words to explain her deep-seated fear. Alfred leans in, asking if she is keeping a secret she cannot share with him. Clenching the blue bedsheets, she prepares to confess the truth behind her 5-night insomnia.
Alfred admits he is angry about the situation and commands her to follow him.
Startled by the king's sudden demand, the girl looks up at him in sheer confusion. She tentatively places her hand in his as they begin to walk together through the castle.
Alfred leads her down the corridor, his massive form walking just ahead of her.
Fearing she's being taken to a dungeon, she compares the somber atmosphere to prison.
Alfred pauses in front of a door, causing the girl to flinch in anticipation.
The king turns the handle and announces they have arrived at their destination. The door opens to reveal a warm room filled with firewood and a glowing fireplace. She is stunned by a beautiful bedroom filled with floating lights and falling rose petals. The girl is struck by the room's uncanny resemblance to her childhood home. Looking around the cozy space, she is surprised to feel a sense of relaxation. Clutching her chest, the girl asks the Beast King exactly where he has brought her.
Alfred reveals this is his secret room. The girl reacts with total astonishment.
Alfred explains she is the only person he has ever allowed into this private sanctuary. He smiles and adds that the room is directly accessible from his own private quarters.
The girl's heart races as she processes the intimacy of being in his secret room. Turning toward him, she asks why he would choose to bring her to this place.
Alfred explains that the castle guards are not permitted to enter this specific area.
He leans toward her, reassuring her that she can finally rest without any fear.
Overwhelmed by his consideration, she asks if he truly did all of this for her.
Alfred notes she still looks unwell and tells her to get some sleep now.
The girl settles into the warm bed as Alfred prepares to leave her to rest.
Peeking over her patterned blanket, the brown-haired girl feels a sense of relief and safety.
Alfred turns and asks what makes her glad. She admits fearing imprisonment for causing trouble.
Alfred promises that won't happen, urging her to sleep while she submissively agrees to rest.
Sunlight streams into the room as the girl stretches, realizing this sanctuary allows her peace. Sitting up, the girl notices movement across the room as the Beast King stirs nearby.
Alfred's ears perk up as he leans over his chair, asking if she is finally awake.
A gentle morning greeting follows as Alfred offers a soft, rare smile toward the girl. Blushing slightly, the girl offers a timid good morning in return while looking at the king. Tension remains as the brown-haired girl tightly clenches the purple bedsheets with both of her hands. Night returns to the silent castle as an owl hoots beneath a bright full moon. Alfred sleeps on the couch while the girl fidgets in her bed, feeling restless and guilty. Looking at her husband, she reflects that the king shouldn't be forced to sleep uncomfortably.
Determined to fix the situation, the girl steps out of bed and approaches the sleeping king.
She moves silently across the ornate carpet, tiptoeing toward the couch where Alfred is resting. Standing over him, she resolves to ensure the Beast King sleeps in a proper bed tonight.
A dark-furred hand suddenly shoots out and grips her wrist with a firm, startling hold.
Startled by the sudden contact, the girl flinches and lets out a sharp gasp of alarm.
Alfred opens his eyes and asks if her inability to sleep is what brought her closer.
She offers to take the couch. Alfred refuses, stating he won't let his wife sleep here.
Blushing deeply, the girl shouts that she won't allow her husband to sleep on a couch either.
The room falls silent as they stare at each other, both stunned by her sudden outburst. Alfred averts his gaze and blushes, internally repeating the word husband with a sense of surprise. Still rooted to the spot, the girl remains flustered by the weight of her own words.
Alfred mumbles under his breath, noting that the human girl is still incredibly stubborn and persistent.
He shifts his weight while the girl worries if her bold statement has accidentally angered the king. Breaking the silence, Alfred extends his large, clawless hand toward her in a slow, deliberate gesture. Surrounded by floating roses, the king gently asks if they should simply sleep in bed together.
Stunned by the
Alfred holds her hair and repeats his proposal to share the bed under the starry night.
A close-up captures her racing heart as the girl reels from the king's unexpected and bold request.
Alfred reaches out once more, causing the girl to tremble as he moves closer to her. She questions why his hand still terrifies her, even though he removed his sharp, prideful claws.
Alfred offers a calm and patient smile while white feathers drift through the air around him.
Seeing a flash of sadness in his eyes, the girl feels a sudden, sharp twinge of guilt.
Alfred bids her goodnight and settles back. She remains standing, unsure of what her next move.
Averting her eyes, the girl struggles to find the right words to address the king's proposal. Nestling back into bed, she laments that her constant hesitation only serves to cause more problems. The scene shifts to the grand royal library, where morning light illuminates the massive bookshelves. While humming to herself, the girl ponders the contents of a book she is currently reading. A wolf maid offers tea, but the girl politely declines, insisting she is doing perfectly fine. Sitting alone at the large table, she stares out the window with a somber, thoughtful expression. A hazy memory of Alfred sleeping on the couch lingers in the back of her mind. Quiet falls over the room as the girl looks out at the peaceful, bright day outside. Back in her room, she locks the door, resolving to stay away from the king's quarters. Tucked under the covers, she forces herself to sleep while hearing rhythmic footsteps in the hall.
Panicked, she rolls over and clutches her chest, her heart hammering as the footsteps draw near.
Panting with fear, she tries to convince herself that the unseen entities won't cause her harm. An oppressive darkness surrounds the text as she desperately repeats that she will not be hurt. Morning returns to the castle as birds soar past the high spires under a clear sky. The breakfast table is set with fresh bread and flaky croissants to start the new day. The girl sits at breakfast, lamenting her total lack of sleep and feeling quite unwell. She worries that the king will be angry if he sees her in such a state.
The brown-haired girl asks the wolf maid where the king has gone this morning.
Hannah explains that the king is preoccupied with work and cannot join her for breakfast. Looking disappointed and nervous, the girl quietly acknowledges the wolf maid's explanation. Staring at an empty chair, she wonders if the king is too busy to even eat.
A close-up shows the girl eating her soup alone, the spoon clinking against the bowl.
After a small taste, she admits the food is good despite her lack of appetite. A wide view shows the girl sitting alone at the massive, empty royal dining table.
Running through the hall, she realizes the king has been sleeping on the couch for her.
The girl stands before the heavy blue bedroom doors, preparing to confront the king. Her emerald eyes widen in pure shock as she notices something unexpected inside the room.
A massive, luxurious bed is beautifully decorated with falling rose petals and white feathers.
Entering the room, she realizes the bed is significantly larger than it was before.
Alfred sits at his desk and notes her arrival while she looks on in surprise.
The king remains focused on reading a letter, bathed in a warm orange glow.
Alfred asks if something happened to prevent her from visiting him the previous night.
Fidgeting nervously, she explains she simply wanted the king to sleep in a proper bed.
A close-up captures Alfred's purple eyes reflecting a moment of quiet, intense focus.
The king's gray tail swishes as he stands up from his desk with a clatter.
Approaching her, Alfred asks if she prioritized his comfort on the couch over her own.
She looks up, insisting she only cared because he is so busy with his royal work.
Alfred is momentarily silenced, looking at her with a softened and genuinely surprised expression.
Rubbing his neck awkwardly, Alfred leaves the girl confused by his sudden, silent reaction.
Alfred mentions her fear of beastkin and explains he came up with a solution for her.
Alfred gestures to the massive bed, suggesting its size resolves any potential problems between them.
The brown-haired girl gasps in sudden understanding as she looks at the king's solution. Looking at the bed, she recalls it used to be much smaller in the past. Alfred promises not to harm her and urges her to finally rest without any fear. They both settle into the enormous bed, maintaining a safe and respectful distance apart. Lying down, she feels touched that the busy king made such an effort for her. The girl fidgets restlessly while Alfred lies silently beside her in the dark room. Exhaustion finally wins as the girl begins to doze off next to the quiet Beast King. Her eyes flutter shut as she finally slips into a deep, long-awaited sleep.
Startled awake, she gasps in confusion as she finds herself held in the king's arms.
Beneath the blue sheets, their feet shift as she tries to process the sudden contact.
Blushing deeply, she stares at the king who has pulled her close during the night.
A close-up shows the girl's shock as Alfred's large hand rests gently on her head. Bathed in morning light, Alfred continues to sleep soundly while holding the girl tight.
Alfred stirs slightly in his sleep, his head nuzzling into her hair with a quiet groan.
Her heart races as she wonders why the king is hugging her so intimately.
Trapped in his embrace, she resolves to find a way to free herself from him. Feeling his steady heartbeat, the girl is momentarily distracted by the king's quiet presence. She reflects on the nature of Beastkin as she gazes at the sleeping king's face. Recalling her initial terror, she remembers how much she once feared the king's presence. Surrounded by flowers, she realizes that things are no longer as frightening as they once were.
Jolting with sudden realization, she questions her own actions and feelings toward her husband.
Straining against his heavy arm, she desperately tries to turn over in the bed. She struggles with the king's heavy limb, finding his physical strength difficult to move. With a final effort, she successfully slips out of his embrace and celebrates her freedom. Alfred pulls the brown-haired girl into a tight embrace, causing her to cry out. Trapped in the king's grasp, the girl wonders how she can possibly escape his hold. The Beast King sleeps soundly while keeping his wife pinned securely against his large chest. The girl takes a cautious sniff of Alfred's arm, her eyes wide with sudden surprise. She reflects on how the king's scent is unexpectedly pleasant, reminding her of warm sunlight. A sense of comfort washes over her as she acknowledges that Alfred's body feels remarkably warm. Her gaze lingers on the thick, gray fur of the king's neck as he remains asleep. Watching his steady breathing, she observes that his fur appears to be incredibly soft. Overcome by curiosity, the girl wonders if the king would object to being pet like an animal. She tentatively reaches out and sinks her fingers into the soft, thick fur of Alfred's neck. The girl is shocked to find that the Beast King is even softer than she imagined.
Alfred shifts slightly under her touch, causing the girl to flinch back in a sudden panic.
Her heart hammers as she worries that her impulsive petting has accidentally awakened her husband.
The king continues to sleep, his deep breathing the only sound in the quiet bedroom. Compelled by the sensation, she reaches out once more to pet the king's soft fur. As she strokes his neck, Alfred lets out a low rumble that reminds her of sunflowers. The girl wonders if the vibrating sound he makes indicates that he is enjoying the affection. She smiles warmly, thinking that the king's reaction is very similar to that of a dog.
A hazy memory of a fluffy pet from her past surfaces as she continues her petting.
Alfred stirs and groans in his sleep, sending a fresh wave of panic through the girl. The Beast King lets out a thunderous yawn, revealing his long, sharp teeth to the girl.
Terrified by the sight of his fangs, she jolts upright while he remains in a daze.
Panicking, the girl slides across the sheets and falls off the bed as Alfred wakes up. Alfred sits up and peers over the edge of the mattress, asking if she fell.
Crouched on the floor, the blushing girl stammers an apology for her clumsy and sudden movements.
The Beast King lets out a soft snort, seemingly amused by his wife's frantic behavior.
Reaching out, Alfred notes that such accidents occur when one chooses to sleep on the edge.
She takes his hand while lamenting the recurring embarrassment she faces in the king's presence.
Alfred exerts his strength and effortlessly pulls the girl back up onto the large back.
He holds her close, confessing his concern that she would eventually tumble out of the bed.
Alfred explains his nightly vigilance prevented her from falling. She apologizes for being so much trouble. Pulling her onto his lap, Alfred warns the girl she is nearly falling off the bed again.
The girl becomes completely flustered and avoids eye contact as the king holds her tightly.
Alfred watches her with a calm, satisfied expression while the room glows with morning light.
Overwhelmed by the intimacy, the girl declares she will return to her own bedroom tonight.
Walking quickly through the hallway, the girl is struck by a sudden realization of her actions.
She questions why she was petting the king as if he were a common pet animal.
Covering her face in shame, she vividly recalls the feeling of the king's embrace.
The girl looks down at her hands, still feeling the warmth of Alfred's large, powerful body.
She reflects on her evolving relationship with the king amidst a backdrop of pink rose petals.
Bathed in a soft glow, she contemplates the true nature of the man she calls husband.
Looming shadows emphasize her internal confusion as she questions what the Beast King is thinking.
The girl freezes in the dark hallway as a sudden sound of voices startles her.
Standing in the darkness, she looks around and wonders what is currently happening in the castle.
Peeking around a corner, she hears a wolf maid questioning why a human is even here. Her heart races as she realizes that the castle servants are openly gossiping about her.
One maid urges calm while another whispers about the risks of being overheard by anyone nearby.
A wolf maid grips her broom tightly, quivering with anger as she declares she has had enough. Baring her teeth, the maid warns that sooner or later something must be done about her.
The girl is paralyzed with fear as one maid scolds the other for being reckless.